And welcome here into the Atlanta Open featuring Fortnite. We have a long month ahead of us here in the qualifiers, but to start things here, it's all today. My name is Trevor McNeil, and I am not going to be alone in my adventures today. I am just the smart boys, and I don't know why, but my other brain cell, Troy Welling, welcome into the show, my friend. How are you doing? Are you excited to be here? All the normal stuff that the brain cells say back and forth.
It was clear that we didn't make the name up. I think everyone can kind of
Right.
establish that as the two. These are like everyone makes those memes about the last two brain cells of your on your tests or like the last two brain cells left. That's us too. Like I don't smart guys.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I'm happy to be here. Obviously, we got a whole month planned ahead of us. We got 3 qualifiers in the finals, so there's a lot to look forward to as far as this community open goes. Back in some Fortnite, we haven't been on Fortnite in a minute, so it's fun to be back and to get into some action. Players coming out and getting ready, so it is going to be on that East Coast servers for everyone that is wondering if you want to play in the other 2 qualifiers. They are still open. We're able to register. Obviously, this one probably closed by now, but there is a lot of potential still left, and every single one of them, even in the qualifiers, you still get a cash prize if you place top 6, I believe, or top 5, and then you get to enter into the finals as well. So obviously, even the qualifiers are important. Finals is where it's at, though.
You touched on a lot that we'll be able to dive more into as we progress into this introductory segment. Of course, you'd like to follow along, you can follow at Skillshot Media across the board on the social media. Of course, skillshot.tv, where we're going to be streaming this all the time. You can use the hashtag ATL Open and the IATLGG. Sometimes I just get to talking too fast. I don't know how to slow myself down. Just be able to follow along with the conversation as we go through, not only with today, but the rest of the competitions. As you mentioned, we can go take a look at where we're going to go from here through the rest of the month. Starting here and now, $175 prize pool across the board. A week from today, we got number 2, and a week after that, number 3, all leading up to that final date of the actual qualifying. It's what everyone's going for, is that last day on the 27th where there's $1,000 prize pool and the players top 30 out of each of these qualifiers will qualify for the finals.
Yeah, it is going to be something interesting. Obviously, in each qualifier, there are 30 players out of each qualifier that can make it through into the finals. So there is still a very good chance to have that. Let's actually go ahead and take a look at the format as I talk about everything as the matches go through. So this is going to be what it kind of looks like as far as point systems goes for the format. For each elimination is going to be plus 2 points. Obviously, really good to have a decent amount of points there in eliminations. Victory Royales, 25. 20 for second, 18 for third, and so on, going down to 10 points for 6th through 15th. So, or to 25th, you get plus 2 points as well. So, I think this is going to be a pretty important elimination-esque tournament, but having 25 points for Victory Royales is pretty important.
Yeah, I think you're going to see some players that kind of will opt into playing a little bit more passive, a little safer to get the loadouts and that they want, the weapons, the cash, the utility, everything that they possibly would want to be able to get into that late game and guarantee those points, because that is a steep hill once you do get into that, top 10, top 5 for the placement points. Of course, all of this just starting today. It is a solos competition as well. So because of that, you're going to see a lot of players when you get into zone 3, 4, 5, where they're just kind of box up and kind of wait it out because they don't want to be that first one out of the placement points. But we'll get into that as we progress. Concurrently going on throughout the stream, there's also a giveaway that is going to be happening. There will be a link that gets posted in the chat you can click on. Today, we're giving away a Cloud Alpha headset as well as a gift card to the shop to be able to get whatever you want, which is just the greatest gift. The Inside Apparel, I mean, you can just go buy whatever you want with $25, and it doesn't get any better than that.
It really doesn't. Obviously, bit.ly/ATL hyphen giveaway. That'll be the way to enter. Obviously, the link will be floating around too in case you want to get access to that or entered into that. But yeah, some nice little prizes just for viewing and being along with us in the process. Always a nice thing to have. You don't have to be a player to be winning still here with Skillshot and with the IATL Open. So still a lot of action to come though as far as the actual games go. Like we said, everything is going to be on the East Coast servers. They're going to play 3 matches today that is going to be pretty important because 3 matches doesn't give you that room normally that we see that players can have that kind of warm-up game. You kind of have to be on it, on top of it for all 3 games. I feel like it's especially with the Victory Royales being 25 points. If you don't have a good game one, and there's people out there got 25 points from victories as well as 10 to 20 points from eliminations. That's a huge point spread, 0 to 30 points to get back into the top 30. So it'll be important to stay consistent throughout these 3 rounds, and that's what we always preach.
Yeah, and that's going to be very interesting to watch and see how the players kind of do approach this, because that 2 points per elimination also adds a separate factor into, what these players, the strategies they potentially might encounter. Because sure, you want to be safe, you want to get to the late game to get as many placement points as you possibly can, because frankly, 12, 13 eliminations is a lot. To be able to match a victory royale. So you could get the victory royale with 2 eliminations, and you could handily be sitting in first place, but there are going to be those hyper aggressive people that are going to get 10 to 15 elims. They're not going to get the win, but they're guaranteed going to get like a top 10 placement. So on top of that, it's going to be curious to see who and how they set the pace at the top of the leaderboard, and kind of how they go about with their weapon selection. The lever action shotgun coming in and pretty much just kind of taking storm. I mean, it's either attack shotty or the lever action, and there's really no ifs, ands, or buts about that. The rest of it's all just, do you get the AR you want? You get a decent SMG? Do you have the rift fish? You got the heals off? And fingers crossed. I hate heal offs, so I don't want to heal off. Please just W key everybody.
Yeah, that's why Storm Surge is always a good thing. I'm not 100% sure if this is, I'm pretty sure it's arena format. I'm not sure if Storm Surge is introduced or not, but yeah, it's important. Heal offs are obviously, for anybody watching, not the greatest thing to watch, because as soon as game 1 goes through and it ends in a heal off, game 2 and 3, there's going to be at least 5 people with like 8 floppers in their inventory that will just sit there and wait in a box and try and win through that. And I can't blame them. 25 points for that, and to have a good strategy at the end of the game is smart. It's just, if you can get there is the problem for a lot of players. You want to stack up on floppers that waste 2 slots in your inventory and makes your loadout a bit weaker. So you kind of have to do that trade-off, which is at least a good thing. It's not like floppers have their own separate inventory. That would be miserable if everyone could have a great inventory as well as 12 floppers just chilling in their bank. But it is going to be an interesting way to see how this plays out.
Yeah, it will be curious in the sense of, you do have to dedicate, as you mentioned, those slots in your inventory to that utility to be able to heal up. And the fact that it's not like a duos or trios, you can't just have one person as the backpack for all that utility. You kind of have to decide, do you want to go for that healing or not? And then, height always matters. Height always wins. So if you do get up there, you do have those floppers. There's also the risk of that, because you are using those inventory slots. If somebody does get the jump on you who has a better loadout, if they have the AR, the SMG, and the shotty, they take your wall, you get gunned down, all of a sudden, boom, they got 6 floppers in their hands now. I'm like, okay, is this all of a sudden my game plan? Do I now go for the heal off because I just have all of this utility on a silver platter? Fingers crossed they don't opt into that, but the temptation is there.
Yeah, the temptation is definitely there, but like I said, we'll see how it plays out eventually. Let's actually go ahead and take a look at the prize pools for everything, though. Obviously, like we said, it is going to be 3 straight qualifiers going into the finals. For qualifier number 1, this is what it's going to look like. $60 for first place, 40 for second, third, 25, fourth, 25, fifth, 25. All of these places get an entry to the finals, as well as all the way through 30th in each qualifier. So 6th through 30th, technically 1st through 30th, are all going to get entry to the finals. So it is important, if you want to participate in each qualifier, that you get into one of these spots to get into the top 30. And realistically, looking at top 30, it's like maybe close to half of the player base in each qualifier. That's pretty good odds. I think if you play it smartly, you could play for kills, but a lot of people probably going to play for those placement points. I think playing for placement points will get you safer spots, at least secure you in the top 30, and from there on, going into the finals, you can kind of figure out how you want to play from there.
And of course, all these players are going to have their own preference. Everyone has that POI that they are accustomed to. They know where the loot is. They know the direction they want to go from there in the rotations post-drop. Then the question mark comes in, is it contested? Are you going to take a 50-50? You really don't want to, because consistency is key to the matter. And as you said, it was, you only have 3 games. Sometimes, the competitions, you'll get 5, maybe 6 rounds where, okay, I can give up a game or two. The score is not too great. I went with an early 50-50. I lost on the draw. That's fine. Go next. Not even going to worry about it. But this time around, with only 3 games, you absolutely have to make sure you min-max as best as you possibly can, because you're going to run out of chances before you know it.
Yeah, and that's huge. Like you said, considering there's only 3 games, do you go for your favorite POI or do you go for like your backup that you've been running in scrims or practicing? Because you don't really want to get into early fights. Like it's not this is not the kind of scenario, not the kind of tournament you want to get into those early fights and challenge to see if you win that 50-50. It's not like it's going to be a huge reward for you. It's plus 2 points, or you could lose potentially up to 25 for that first place. So it is kind of that trade-off, like you said, and we'll see if those kind of impactful areas like Pleasant Park, looking at the bigger POIs, see if those still get a lot of action or if people are going to tend to go to their secondary place.
Yeah, and from there, then you'll start to see, okay, what's the rotations going to be? Are you going to see people
Right.
going from one hyperactive POI drop to the next one? Or are you going to see them just kind of skirt in between locations, try to keep it safe? Just pick up a fishing rod and see what you can get out of the rivers, what kind of loot you'll get from there. Interactions with AI, cashing in on bounty. I mean, there's just so many other options that these players could go outside of just actively W key into the next location, try to take out anybody they come across. And that's the thing I do love about the variety of this as well. I mean, granted, you watch the FNCS, the Cash Cubs, whoever, it's always like the same 150 players that are always in those positions. You know what they're going to do. They're going to go
Yeah.
location to location and just absolutely decimate whoever they come across. And I think I love the things about these tournaments that are like a tier below where those players are, because you do get that variety. You do get those wild cards where you actually never know what kind of clown fiesta is going to happen.
Yeah, it's true. And that's always something to look forward to. Obviously, 3 more games coming up today. Do not go anywhere. We're going to go to a quick break before we get into round 1. We'll be right back.
welcome back here to the ATL Community Open, the first qualifier of the 3 this month before we get into the grand finals at the end of the month. My name is Trevor McNeil, and alongside me, my other brain cell, Troy Willing, coming back here before we get into round number 1, who is lost in space. Troy, are you with me?
As the other brain cell, I can confirm I was not here, but I am back, and we're ready to get into some action here, of course. 3 matches to go, and a lot of exciting Fortnite to still be played. Obviously, if you weren't here earlier for the format kind of discussion of the overview or the roadmap of everything, we're going to have a qualifier each Thursday for the next 3 weeks leading into the finals, and the finals is going to be where that big prize pool is. So, that's why. Okay, so it'll lead up in the finals, 3 qualifiers, lead up in the finals on the last week of February 27th. Be there, be square. We're going to get into round 1 here shortly. Make sure to tell us who you think is going to end up taking this first qualifier, though. We'll be interested to see if we know some names in this. We obviously haven't been able to see the player list or anything, so going into the first game, we get a good idea of who's going to be top of the charts from just the kind of early action probably that we'll end up seeing, especially the people that still choose to go to their like POIs and the bigger areas. Those are going to be the people that you're looking to kind of frag out and see that they want the action early.
And the curious thing about this is, you and I have cast numerous Fortnite events across numerous separate competitions and different formats and styles. As we get into this one, it'll be curious to see how players go, because typically in round 1 to kind of get a feel for the lobby, kind of get an understanding of how aggressive can I play this? Can I really go pedal to the floor, full throttle, W key, anything that I find? Or am I going to have to play a little more passive, play it safer because of the competition I'm up against? Maybe they outskill me in their edits and I just cannot get those shots off, which, Tim the Tatman will tell you, aim is better than edit ability, which I'd be inclined to agree because I can't edit, so I have to rely on my aim. But it'd be curious to see, which direction these players do go in this opening round, because the point that you touched on in the introduction was there's only 3 rounds. And typically we'll see a team that really does jump up the leaderboards with the amount of eliminations and their placement here in this opening round. And then from there, they are able to kind of pull off a little bit and kind of just coast through the next couple of rounds. But the problem with it is there's only 3, so you kind of really have to keep that momentum up if you do plan on qualifying here. 1st through 30th, of course, is going to make it into the finals at the end of the month.
Yeah, and like you said, having that kind of deficit of not being able to have an extra warm-up round here and there is going to be pretty unbeneficial for a lot of the players starting out, because like you're talking about, you're mentioning, you kind of have to feel the lobby, and if you have to take your entire first game to feel how the lobby plays out, it's gonna, you're gonna lose your entire first game if you end up going for an early fight and this kid is just straight up as a hotel in front of you and you have no chance. It's like you have to realize that. And that's the hardest thing to do, is you just have to play to your consistency the entire 3 rounds. You can't change how you play at any point, because going into the first round, if you play different, you might lose a bunch of points in that round. Round 2 and 3, you gain a little bit back. But like we said, there's no room to lose some points in this competition. Obviously, it's nice to get that top 30 kind of benchmark. That is going to be where a lot of players are shooting for. Obviously, just to get into the finals is kind of the main goal for a lot of players, I'm assuming. But I think it is going to be important to see through game 1 as we get into game 1, looking at where the bus decides to go. It looks like a north to east kind of bus here, going straight over the middle of the map, and a lot of players choosing to drop south, it seems, which is not really surprising. We see a lot of caddy corner kind of retail row fights, so not really too surprised there. Steamy Stacks getting a lot of action, though. You see 5 or 6 players going towards that in the northeast area.
Yeah, very curious, because, we've talked about it, and it's been, I don't know how long since the Mythics have been out of Caddy Corner, and still everybody loves to go to that side of the map. I mean, you see 10, 15 arrows down there around, especially on that mountain, with the campsites, because it is reliable. There are chests there. You get at least some material resources, and then you're able to move through those POIs to Caddy, to Misty, to the Lazy Lake, wherever you really want to go, depending on which direction the zone goes. There's a lot of different options on rotations around this part, so I'm not really too surprised that it's still so popular. It just humors me that Mythics have been gone for so long and we're still in the same places for the last year.
I think, it's just a comfort thing. People are so used to going and fighting Caddy all the time to try and get those Mythics, because it was obviously the best place to get your Mythic items, but it is still going to be seeing some early action, as we see in the first blood going to go down already. 3 players going to be sitting in Colossal Coliseum. I'm surprised I didn't mess that up. First day back in Fortnite, actually able to get through that. I could never, when that first came out, could never say that correctly. It was just a mess. You're going to see Rando here potentially leaving the blue tack behind for that green lever, which is recently introduced, like you're talking about. It's either the tack or the lever shotgun, and he's going to tend to go for the lever here. So see if that pays out for him. Blue tack is still nice. The only issue that's always been with packs is they're just not consistent enough, and you take some meds in the open, you're going to take some damage for it, and Rando's already getting into some early action, down to 15 health.
Yeah, not a great start, but you at least have the shields to boot. Buck T here trying to push on the aggressive. That blue lever is going to be the difference maker. He's going to get the elimination enough to be able to get that connection and get the +1. So a good start there for Buck T to try to take over Colossal here, and is going to have the rest of this area virtually to himself. And a blue shotgun is just going to beat the green one, especially when they only have 15 health. You have to hit them with like 2 pellets out of the entire spread. So it's really not asking a lot to be able to get that elimination secured. So well played there by Buck.
Yeah, and we'll see him just picking up some more loot, getting some more mats, and getting ready to move out of Colossal Coliseum. As far as the first zone goes, we'll end up taking a look at that shortly. But doesn't seem too unsafe here in the middle of the map, as for the most part you'll always be safe around this area. Not really going to find too many zones kind of luring or lurking outside of the middle of the map. Maybe you see something go northwestern. It's really awkward for everybody. We do see a familiar face though popping up in the chat. Karu is going to be popping up here in the kill feed. He just recently joined a new team, so congrats to him. But that is a player to look out for sure. As far as our Las Vegas experience goes, Trevor and myself saw Karu quite often competing with the likes of some very, very good players like Sake, like Rux back in the day. I mean, he's been on top for quite a while, so looking for him to try and do the same in game number 1.
And a lot of names that are going to be more familiar with people on the West Coast because of the fact that, granted, you know, based out of Las Vegas, a lot of more West Coast competition. So you start to get the 5G team, you get NorCal out of, understandably, NorCal, and these teams that have picked up these players out of Las Vegas, Karu, you know, prime and pristine out of the Vegas area. And, you know, when we were in the public matchmaking format of the competition here in Vegas, he was always on top. I mean, that kid was popping 25 to 30 eliminations around easy. So I'm not surprised at all to see him to have significant levels of success here in this competition. And this is another thing that I love to see that has started to come back more into meta is people and sniper rifles, because I love me some good sniper rifle clips.
Yeah, no kidding. And I think that comes down to there not being an increase of like rocket launchers and more explosives or other items that could kind of take that slot. It was always the decision of sniper rifle or rocket launcher, or maybe consider going some extra utility item like you can see the harpoon gun or something like that. It would be kind of one of those decisions. And now, since it's really hard to get rocket launchers, sniper rifles have increasingly come back, and I think they're fantastic. I've always been a fan of sniper rifles. I think it's really smart, especially in like a solos-esque tournament. In duos and trios, it's a lot harder to try and get that going because you can get a knock, but you can't confirm the kill, and they just build up and get their teammate back up. But the best thing about snipers is even if you do get the knock or you get a hit, that's 100 damage at least onto the person you're taking down. So it's going to force a lot of meds out of their inventory. It's going to put them in an awkward situation, just going to make them play completely differently than they were before. And it also leaves the player to, like I said, play differently because now they know there's a sniper rifle looking at them. Which if you play any FPS game, you should always play as if there's a sniper looking at you. That's just a smart thing to do, is just always be moving, always be jumping. That's why you see people constantly jumping and moving around, is because one day there will be a sniper rifle looking at you and it's going to headshot you. And you're going to learn from experience the bad way that you should probably keep looking around and keep jumping like that. But as of right now, looks like Future here is going to be in a pretty bad spot. Has some decent meds, just lost about 80 health, and he's not having a good time.
Little trade back there, quick tag of the shield on the other side, but you see the bullet coming in from the hillside, so I have to at least reevaluate this, get a couple of chug splashes, get some of that, at least a little bit of shield here, a few more mats, and not a lot to work with. Only got those 4 builds. Got the minis, does have the shield pot as well, so theoretically could get back up to the full 200 if they allow the time, and Future will. And around the board, we'll see what the move is going to be as Craggy progresses. Still a little bit of action here in the middle of the map. You see Anbu here around Colossal making the rotation over the middle. And of course, all of these crystals giving that extra little mobility. And that's a point we didn't even get to touch on, is mobility being the name of the game. And these jump crystals in the middle of the map that do give that extra little jump boost, as you see here. And the fastest way to destroy those is, as we saw Anbu do, is to put a build on them and then destroy them very quickly. You don't get the resources from it as far as building material goes, but you do get that mobility immediately. So might be a little bit more time efficient if you are trying to quickly make a move across these desert parts.
Yeah, and we'll see the rotation starting to come through now that the first zone is starting to close up here in just about a minute and a half. 42 players still left alive as we look at Anbu here. It's going to be moving around. You can take a look at the overall arch of the next zone. It is going to be around the middle of the map, like we're talking about Colossal Coliseum. Seemingly safe for the rest of the game until that really does make a huge change. But as of right now, Ransom going to make his rotation towards Salty Towers. Not a great spot to rotate into. There is only 3 players luckily on that side of the map. Usually not, or usually a pretty important POI that people like to fight over. So the fact that there's only 3 players contesting for that right now is pretty important. And I'd probably take that opportunity to try and take over that area, because if you can have Salty Towers for the meantime, or for the time being going into the next couple of zones, I think it's huge. You can kind of gatekeep anybody else trying to get in, and you can also kind of zone keep as well with other players trying to get out of the next rotation.
And that's another thing that we're going to see, you know, is what players are going to take advantage of these early rotations into zone. Who's going to be the first ones to get to edge of zone, build up their little structure, sit there and gatekeep as the rest of the players try to make the rotations in after the fact. Or you can have the players that are going to pretty much walk on edge of zone to keep everybody in front of them, minimize the amount of angles they could possibly get shot from, and try to pick people off as the zone moves in and they move in with it. So another one of those things that is just another dynamic, another variable you have to consider, and especially in a variety lobby where there's a lot of wild cards, you just never know. And then you're going to see a lot of stuff exactly like this. When placement points have so much meaning, especially getting into the top 10, players just going to hold up, play it safe, and just kind of wait for the next zone before they figure out which direction they want to go and not take any unnecessary risks.
As you see a risk coming out here for Boss, as he immediately gets ends up in a fight. Player above him going to have the height as well, and is already encroaching on his area, trying to build as best as he can, but that stair also gets taken out as well. Yeah, not looking too great for him. He goes down. Camram's going to be at the top of the building here, trying to look down at the player below him, trying to find, or trying to hear in general where this player might be. Seeing some recent builds there, is going to know where the player is now. The problem with fights like this is if it lasts too long, people are going to start to third party, and Camrams is not very safe, not very secured up there. So smart drop down, obviously didn't, or took a bit of health damage on the drop, but smart drop down, I think that puts him at a less risk of dying. Even though losing 19 health, I think he's still in a much better situation than he was beforehand. Still has a decent amount of materials as well, a little bit over 300, and no one's actually pushing the fight either. So that's also pretty important for these two, is that they can kind of just play through this one. A rocket launcher being heard. That is not what you want to hear in a 1v1 like this.
Yeah, not good at all. Waiting for the builds to come through. Does get the cone above the top, but now, exactly like you mentioned earlier, you always got to keep those walls up because someone with the sniper rifle is going to be watching, especially as these circles get smaller and smaller. You can always expect there is someone with a scope on, and you have to keep those walls up around you. You see Bugs just sitting here waiting, top of the structure, maybe get a pop shot with the AR. Doesn't have any sort of range outside of that AR. Camrams, though, switching back to that one. A quick drop demon going to pick that up. Couple of 2 taps there with the shotty, and now we again play the game of these players already in zone, just kind of sit and wait and bring attention now in this lull of a moment where you can talk about another name that we see in the feed, that Dev is Tiny popping up, another one of our Friday Frags players out of Las Vegas, who I do expect to see make a name into the late game.
Yeah, one of those players, a part of Carrier's team as well. On the EG side, both going to probably look to make their mark here in this game, and we'll see if they can do. As we get into another fight here, Pearson is going to immediately go into a box battle. Has a P90 as well. Purple P90 is going to be insanely strong for close battles like this, especially in solos. Just absolutely tear through builds. Takes a bit of damage, though, already having to re-heal here. Going to use a couple minis and use that 50 shield. And still getting pushed on, though, so he's going to have to back up, start a new build elsewhere, and start to look for a different fight. Getting sniped at as well. Almost close on that one. Could have taken him down, and he's not having a good time.
having a hard time tracking, going through all these builds, just has to play reactively on these builds getting taken down, plus dealing with the person somewhere in the background with that sniper rifle, and there is just no rest for the Wicked here. Pearson just about had enough of this one, trying to counter push this one. You see a little bit of an edit there, and the other player finding the gap to get the shot to connect. Pearson resorting to these minis. Only got one left after this. Shotgun shot's gonna go down. Trade back and forth here. Person out of 30 health, and that's not gonna be enough to deal with. Vinny is gonna come out on top in that battle.
Yeah, and he's going to do it quite easily. Joe Baca is the name I saw in chat quite often. A lot of people rooting for Joe Baca to take this qualifier, so we'll see if he can do so. Very, very nice inventory for him. He's got 200 health, obviously 6 minis, 50 pot, nice SMG to the lever action shotgun, and a purple sniper. So he's looking real strong to keep going through this game. As we see, the second zone going to close here in just about 30 seconds. He's just going to wait on that and make his rotation once again. Another thing we always like to talk about is late versus early rotations. Usually, early rotations seemingly to be a lot easier, a lot safer, but the late rotations can help potentially if somebody else is taking the target, taking the action. Obviously, having bouncers back and being able to kind of use those as it is a quick rotate could help you out in late rotations as well, but not going to be the greatest situation here for a couple players that do have to make those late rotations. Surprisingly, Pfeffer in the middle of the Coliseum, not going to get shot at even once. So, I mean, that's great news for him as he makes his way back up and tries to go into the second portion of the game here. 3 out of 9 circle, third circle of the 9. Colossal Coliseum going to be completely zoned out of the next zone here. So he's going to have to start making his move. Karu finding another kill in the kill feed as well. Great inventory for Pfeffer, but he's going to have to start getting on to that fourth zone here.
Yeah, looking for some upgrades, potentially, you know, find a bandage or a med kit to at least just to max out on that one. But on the other side, as we get the next zones coming through, you still hear those snipers going through on the side. Looking forward to an edit battle here. Cheeky get a couple shots with the tac shotty, but not able to get any of those to connect. And now resorting back into the water, going to take a rotation, leave of absence, and try to find a different angle or potentially a completely different fight. Get the tree out of the way also, open up that line of sight, and take a little bit of a reset. You see the players starting to stack up here. 33 left overall, starting to get where placement points going to mean that much more. And I don't expect a lot to happen here in third zone. Players just going to be taking a few cheeky pop shots here and there. No pun intended on cheeky, but outside of that, once we get to zone 4, zone 5, that's when I think you're really going to start to see these players popping off.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be quite a mess as we get into the later zones. You're going to see Bucky's going to end up taking out Devis Tiny, so a pretty important kill right there as just outside of placement, that top 25 being that placement mark to hit. So it is an unfortunate death right there for Dev as he wants to try and get back into this tournament. He only got 2 games left to do so, so he's going to kind of be worrisome about that, but still a great shot and a great finish by Bucks. He's going to ensure that he keeps his game going. Gets an extra 2 points for eliminations right there as well. In case anybody wasn't here earlier on for the kind of format overview, it is 2 points per kill. You also have going all the way to 25th in placement, 25 points for the Victory Royale, and kind of just trickles down there points-wise. So it is going to be all about the Victory Royales, partially about some kills, and we'll see how people decide to play through this. Ghost Pepper missing a shot wide there with that sniper rifle. You're just going to keep waiting out here. Just got to be careful. I was going to say, got to block off every sight. That way no one else is looking at you potentially. Still wide open to his left flank here. Got to be careful about that, getting sniped. But he's on the edge of Colossal Coliseum, so probably shouldn't be anybody rotating from his left. He's just going to try and find a direct path to maybe this player sitting in his box. Yeah. But yeah, he's got to go. Zone has arrived, and now he's on the move.
Yeah, and you know, smart to play it on that left side where you keep the zone to the left, and there's really not a whole lot, you know, that's going to be over there. I would assume at that point already covered that section, so you know that no one's going to be there. There's going to be a couple people in this structure below Ghost Pepper. You got to lead the shot with those sniper rifles, with those couple that did go wide here. Almost had an opportunity through the window there, but they hadn't able to get back up in front of it in time. And another thing, you know, as you were talking about with the adjustment of, you know, not having rocket launchers available, you don't get that good old 1-2 punch of the rocket sniper combo or something of that nature where you get that immediate follow-up from there. You do hear the sniper shots coming out across to see, gonna put any walls up to cover. And I gotta say, I love the fact that you see Fortnite having such an influence on the gaming community, and the fact that an entire franchise was made off of this character model alone. That's incredible to see what impact Fortnite has.
Yeah, I can't. I just, it's pain. It's there's gonna be people out there that have no idea who Master Chief is, and they're like, yeah, it's a Fortnite character, right? I saw him. I saw his skin in the shop once, and I bought it. I think he looks cool. It's like, no, I can't believe it. But yeah, obviously, a cool addition to Fortnite is having the Master Chief collection. There's been a lot of great additions as we kind of wait to see how this last rotation is going to go here, potentially to the fifth and final. Well, not fifth, not the final, but the fifth zone as we go through. It is going to be interesting to see the kind of developments in Fortnite history. Obviously, there's been a lot of partnerships with Marvel, NFL. There's been some very, very big partnerships, and is a huge reason why Fortnite can keep putting on great tournaments constantly and cash cups and all that, which is why I feel like there's still a huge player base for this game, is because they've seemingly kept it alive for a really long time, and we're able to keep constantly supporting the players playing it. So that's something that Fortnite has done that a lot of companies couldn't, which I think is why Fortnite is still as successful as it is and still keeping the player base moving. As we see folks here not in a great spot, there goes that, as Little Sparky going to take out the kill on him and finds a nice reward there as well in that gold tack.
Yeah. No one's ever going to complain about a stroke of gold in their inventory. You see Gray Disc here trying to move up, try to establish height as the zone does move in, as a player directly below and to the right, but of course all kinds of shots coming in from the side as to maintain these walls, and this is a tall order when there's shots all around, players directly on top of you, and everyone that made those early rotations already in the zone, it's just lighting them up. Both these players on the rotation, Gray Disc is not going to make it across the river, and that is a tough angle to make. See if Ghost Pepper's going to be able to do so. Player
Gotta use your bouncers here.
And this is, yeah, you have to rely on the mobility, and there's nothing to do.
Buck-T's getting
four
old.
people shooting at you, and Buck-T's picking up every single one of them, and yeah, celebration, understandably so, rightfully so. 5 eliminations here for Buck-T, entering into the top 25.
I just saw Bully take 3 kids' lunch money and then not even care about it and start dancing away. Like, if these kids were trying to make their late rotation, we're like, I'm just going to try to get to the next zone, see if I can get into the top 25. And Buck-T's like, no, you're not. I'm going to take all your lunch money. It's all mine now. Thank you. But we see Buck-T making some nice rotations. This is what I was talking about with the bouncers. For those quick rotations, he's going to keep shooting them behind him. That way no one else can take those as well. Smart play from him makes it easier that no one can track him, as well as he does give free rotations for other people. So Buck-T's going to make some nice moves. He already has 5 kills in the game as well, so that's 10 points alone. Plus that top 25 points, another 2 on top of that. Buck-T's looking real nice, and his inventory is looking even nicer. He's got a lot of meds in general. He's got obviously fantastic guns. Looking at everything, gonna take some snipes here and there with that bolt action, but we'll see as it goes through for him if he's going to manage this and keep it strong. And it'll be interesting to see how it goes through for them. Obviously, going into the 6th potential zone here. How it's going to play out. Obviously, this is game 1 of 3. If you're new to the format, new to the tournament, it is going to be interesting to see how the rest of the games go, because there is only 3 games today. This is a very, very important game for the rest of Qualifier, I feel like.
Yeah, and you hear the shots popping off now. I mean, you look across the board, and this is absolutely insane as to the direction of all these players making these rotations. Buck-T picks up another one. Is just going to continue this onslaught. I mean, 6 eliminations up to this point and just continuing to stack up those points. And this is what we talked about early on. Great wall right there to be able to stop that rocket from coming in. This is exactly what we talked about. There is going to be that 1, 2, potentially 3 players that really put themselves at the top of the leaderboard, both with placement and with eliminations. Keru and Buck-T seem to be the 2 names so far. Carter KC, also a name that's popped up a handful of times here in the game as we get into that top 20 threshold now. Buck-T is just absolutely the one we are watching now as we get into these moving zones. Number 6 coming in, and everyone already hugging that wall. And now you'll see especially the importance of these bouncers to come through and watching these players make these early rotations to get ahead of the zone and fire back at everyone else potentially left exposed.
Keru still fragging out as well, both making it through the top 20 so far. You hear RPGs going off here, and their player's gonna have to make a strong rotate into the first moving zone. As we see in 45 seconds, that's gonna start pushing through. See who makes those smart rotations. Buck-T has a great spot, almost got a free kill right there. Vanish Cheng, another really strong player, is gonna be in this one as well. First time, I think, seeing his name on the kill feed, but a huge kill for him. Gonna secure a couple points going even later into this rotation. Buck-T's gonna end up taking the lower ground here. Goes for a drive-by shotgun shot. Could not hit that one as he goes through, and now he's gonna have to start making his rotation to the other side. Depending on where he goes is in this next rotation is going to be rough to see if the moving circle completely disbands where these players are currently going now and goes to the other side of the map. They make the rotation kind of awkward for a lot of players here. Chang's picking up kills. Joe Baca goes down in 16th, unfortunately, so missing a bit of points in general right there from the first round of the qualifiers. Would like to improve on that in game number 2, but Bucky's still sitting nicely. 6 kills in total, top 15 for him, and he's not really any danger.
Yeah, not really wall edit right there to get the window. Shots traded back and forth. Bucky loses half the shield, but doesn't even worry about it. Gets the other shot to connect. Bucky picks up number 7. Continues on. Does get tagged right there to lose about 3/4 of it. And after, I was going to say, after all these shots going through, haven't seen a whole lot of eliminations coming in until the last moving zone really starts to pick up. Vanish Chang picks up one more. Carter had picked up a couple. Drive-by that time around is going to hit. Put that one in the highlight reel. Buck T is on a roll, has the high ground. I would imagine has the crown for the most eliminations. Another one on top, 67 down on the shield. And Buck T is just in charge. Karu dropping down now, time to the top 4. Charged shotgun going to be tagged a little bit down there, 6 or 8 for the ground level, trying to drop down. Bugs picks one up onto ice right there, and still holding onto the high ground, raining in, trying to get these bricks out. That's going to be all white right there, no shield. Cheeky going to be taken out, down to the last player, Buck T +1. Steve is going to be able to. There's a lot of bullying, a lot of pressure coming on from the shot on top, has all kinds of ammo, all kinds of mats, and full health. And that's actually Bugs down below, trying to keep these walls up.
Ouch.
Trades back and forth on the losing side of it, though. 49, 480 plus. Gonna take the minis here while you can. Try to edit out around, but a lot of pressure on, down to just the 2 shield left over. Try to trade 33? Back. Does get 23 to hit. And now we'll see as we take the bird's eye view of the angle. Of course, high ground. We always talk about reign supreme. Shots traded back and forth here. Has the option, has the angle. Not gonna get it though. And that's going to be enough. There's no builds to go off of. Buck T picks up the first round, the victory royale, and 10 eliminations. And what a way to start this game.
Yeah, so Buck T's qualified. So we'll see him in the finals through that game alone. 25 points plus 20 from the kills that he got alone. I mean, 45 points is more than people are going to get through the entire 3 games. Bad. So I'm confidently going to say that he's going to move his way towards the finals with that game alone. Huge game from Buck T, though. And a lot of that was just really smart play. It's not like, you know, he did anything special or did anything crazy. I mean, the bouncer play was nuts. But besides that play, he was really smart with his rotational shots, kind of zone keeping. And that's where he got 3 kills, was where he just kind of got to sit on the edge of the zone, watched some late rotators come through and got some easy kills, and was just able to kind of pick some shots up here and there and really just kept developing. And that's where we see the huge advantage that really good players have, is where they get the kills at, because a lot of, you know, good or average players will get their kills early game, maybe rotating into the middle part of the game, but the great players get all their kills at the end of the game. You could have 0 kills leading up to the top 20 and finish with 10 kills. Like, they're very good players that know what they need to do and how to do it, and that's exactly what Buck T did in that game.
Yeah, and to the same point of, you'll see the great players pick up an early elimination. Maybe 1 or 2. You know, they go off a 50-50, and they make it work. They make it happen. And then, seemingly, nothing happens for them for the next 15 minutes until they get to the late game. And then once they get to there, they capitalize on their positioning, capitalize on their loadout, on materials that they have, and then they just go ballistic. And, I mean, the bouncer play, you talk about the drive-by. Attempted it twice. Second time around, got it to land. But even the sense of just the game knowledge of knowing, taking the bouncer to launch yourself into the next zone to get on that front leading edge of the moving zone. Midair, 180, destroy the bouncer so that no one can follow you, and make sure, like, you're controlling the rotation of the rest of the lobby. That's just the big brain plays. That's more than the brain cells that you and I have, and you got to give credit where credit's due. Buck T absolutely earned that victory.
Yeah, he did, and he played it really well, especially going towards the end game. Obviously, being able to get height back, and was obviously his game to lose at that point, considering he had the height advantage, and just kind of got to laser down AR shots and put the other player, Bugs, in a really bad kind of disadvantage, where he either had to drop him from his height or had to just kind of go for a weird 50-50 fight, in which he ended up dropping down too far and then just went up to try and drop him off of the height advantage, but just didn't end up working and had to go down in the end. But some really good names and good players popping up through that entire first round. So as far as that goes, Buck T with a huge performance is going to obviously, I would confidently say, secure him into the top 30 for the rest of the tournament. So as far as round 2 and 3 goes, he can live up to his name or kind of just chill out as far as that goes. But we saw some really good players in that top 10 kind of area. Vanish Chang, we saw Karu, Devis Tiny dropped a little bit too early, but wants to make his way back up.
Yep.
There's a lot of very, very good players that still have an opportunity to shine in round 2 and 3.
Yeah, and we even saw, Carter, who I think ended up in a top 5, top 10 position as well, get at least, I would say, 5 to 8 eliminations somewhere in that frame.
Yeah.
So, we see a decent amount of players that are getting into the late game. They're missing out. And as you mentioned with Bucky, now, sure, you're qualified for the finals, but are you content with qualifying? Sure, there's the larger prize pool at the end of the road, but there's still a prize pool today. And you want to maximize out on that. So sure, you could coast through the next couple of rounds, whatever, go wherever you want, or just do it again and destroy everybody and walk away with first place, because then you get the claim to fame that A, you won the opening qualifier number 1, and then B, now you're in the finals, surefire guarantee, with that much more money in your pocket already going to that. And of course, at the end of the road, if you do want to get that extra pot of gold in the finals, put that on top. No one's going to complain about that. That's an easy month's work.
I mean, you might as well. I think that would be a smart thing to do. But of course, if you're going to stay along with us, make sure to use the hashtags ATL Open as well as IATLGG, and make sure to join the conversation with us. You, of course, can find me and Trevor on Twitter at Pibcast. You find him at Confused Caribou, and tell us how bad we are. Tell us the lack of brain cells we have. Anything you want to do, we're open for it. But there is a lot of action still to go, and really excited to see how that goes through. Of course, follow at Skillshot Media on Twitter as well. It's where you'll get all this information for probably the whole tournament for the rest of the month. So make sure to follow them too.
Yeah, and of course, all of this going on, just building up to the finals. But there's still, like I said, there's the prize pool today. There's also the giveaway that we have going on today. The chat, the link will be posted in the chat progressively as it goes through. There is going to be a headset given away, as well as a gift card to the Insight Apparel. And you can visit the link on screen or click the one that is actually in chat as well. So free stuff for those that aren't even playing, those that are watching. Maybe some of the players in the competition also in the chat, so maybe they'll win some money from the competition as well as the headset. So no one's going to complain about free things at the end of the day. Huge shout out to anyone that has contributed to put all this together, Skillshot especially, to get these things for us, because it just keeps giving back to the community to keep building up these events. And couldn't do it without those people. We couldn't do it without the players as well. So shout out to all you guys that did sign up and are playing in this tournament.
Yeah, and there's a lot more planned, so make sure to keep an eye out if Fortnite's not your game and you like to play something else. I know there is some stuff in the works, so Skillshot's always on the move. Make sure to follow them on Twitch, follow them on Twitter, like I said, to keep up to date. But round number 2 going to come quickly after this break. Do not go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the ATL Open featuring Fortnite. We are getting ready for game number 2. My name is Trevor McNeil, the other brain cell alongside me, Troy Welling. Here we are. Are you ready for the second iteration of this Open Qualifier?
Oh boy, am I! I'm excited. Obviously, we saw a lot of that first match was kind of a gauge of how good the competition was going to be, and to see how everybody would kind of match up against each other. To see a lot of big names and a lot of good players come through in round 1 is going to be exciting to see how they develop and how they change their game going into round 2 and round 3. Because now the players that lost a lot of points in the last game, this is their time to make it up. Otherwise, they're going to be just hoping for qualification at that point at the end of the third round. So, yeah, Bucksy obviously off to a fantastic start. If you missed that game, highly suggest going back and watching that. An amazing performance. Even had a highlight reel bouncer play. So I think it's something to look forward to. But going into round 2 and round 3, we'll see how the game plays out. See if the player base is going to increase or decrease. See how the players decide to go through their POIs as well. A lot of interest early on, and still in Caddy Corner. We saw a few, like 5 or 6 players in Steamy Sacks. So I think based on that first game as well, if players were paying attention, there's probably a few places that went unknown and no players went to. And I think that's something that smart players could see and kind of react on and maybe change up their drops, which is something that not a lot of people do in tournaments. It's you practice strictly the same drop because where the chests could spawn. You don't have the 100% chest rate anymore, but you know where chests could be. You know how to fight in that area. You've been in plenty of fights before. So a lot of people like to tend to stick with that same area, but we'll see if anyone decides to change it up.
Yeah, and part of the point of that as well is, which path does the bus take on the way down? Because, that one was pretty much north central that went to the east, southeast, over retail, and then out. So really the whole, southwest side of the map wasn't even touched. Granted, not surprisingly, nobody went to Slurpee. Nobody went to Holly Hedges. I mean, there was just so much real estate that players really didn't get to touch because of just the path that the bus took. So if they do get a more favorable one that kind of splits the map in two, maybe you'll see a little bit more of a wide variety, a little more spread as to where the players do go. And to the point that you mentioned as well, it's a lot of players don't really change up their POIs. I mean, sure, you have your primary. There's probably also a secondary, worst case scenario backup plan. But at this point, if you're already in a good position, if you were one of those players that got top 10, top 15 in the last game, you had a handful of eliminations, maybe feel a little more comfortable to go to your POI, risk the 50-50. What's the worst thing that happens? You drop out in 50th place, and then, okay, let's go to game 3 and hope that play a little bit safer that time around. So there are still options on the table, but as we've already mentioned a couple of times, only 3 games, you really can't afford to give up too much.
Yeah, and that's something to look forward to in game number 2 as well, to see if people decide to go aggressive. Like we saw Buckty had a huge performance on the first game. If he decides to do that same thing again, where he plays not passively because he still had a couple kills early on, but if he plays the same way, that smart way of playing into the later game kills and trying to get edit windows and take some shots on players with the ARs on late rotations, or if he decides to go for some more early action and makes his rotation path a little bit different, maybe going to more bigger POIs and deciding to go into bigger and more important 50-50s than he would before. So that's something that the top of the leaderboards can kind of look at, but what the bottom of the leaderboard has to do is maybe decide to go for those fights. But I think it's all about placement going into the next 2 games.
The interesting thing where we started with Buckty was one of the first eliminations, one of those first 5 eliminations out of the lobby outright in Colossal Coliseum. And then very favorable that the circle kind of just ended up around Colossal, just ended just east of it in zone 4, zone 5. Yeah. So kind of interesting in the sense that you see Buckty able to virtually get Coliseum to himself and not really have a whole lot of ground to really rotate around there. I mean, sure, maybe you go touch into Salty Towers a little bit, but there's really not a lot more out there. There's a few chests, a few sparse little whatever in the desert, but not a whole lot of loot that he was exposed to, and still able to get a really solid loadout based off of, the eliminations, picking up whatever weapons off of players he got eliminations on. And it's just interesting because it's a thing that you really don't see that often, where a player goes to their location and then just doesn't move from there, but still gets a great
Yeah.
loadout, still gets a lot of eliminations. It's interesting because it just like never happens.
Yeah, you usually don't get that opportunity to kind of sit in that one zone for the most of the game and kind of hope for the best, like we saw Bugsy
Yeah.
did. But I mean, nonetheless, still had the zone favored in his action in his way. But as far as game number two goes, usually depends on where the bus goes, because sometimes you can see absolutely terrible bus routes, like straight up from like the southwest to southeast point, like it just goes on a straight horizontal line at the bottom of the map, and it's just like terrible. Or you could have a lot more centralized kind of diagonal routes, which a lot of players probably prefer. That way you can either go to the north or the south or east or west, kind of gives you all of those options. But like we said, there's quite a few POIs that were left alone, looking more towards the western side of the map, just because it wasn't necessarily as accessible as the eastern, north, south, eastern parts of the map were, because of that bus route. But it's going to be interesting to see if a lot of those players from like Caddy Corner or Steamy Sacks decide to go to a different POI, because of how many players ended up going there, which, like we were talking about earlier, I can't believe there's still that many players going to that south part of the map. Obviously, there's a lot of good action to go through there, but there's no mythics anymore at Caddy Corner. It doesn't have the best chests. It doesn't have the best drop rates. Like it's not the greatest POI on the map, but there's still a lot of action. And I think it's because of the kind of landscape around it. Probably makes it a lot easier and makes you feel a lot safer as far as fighting goes, because you have a huge mountain to your south and you kind of have a little bit more room to maneuver around and kind of navigate. But it does make it kind of awkward as far as rotation goes if you're stuck in that Caddy Corner area and there's quite a few players still around.
And granted, it is like the most densely populated area of POIs,
Yeah.
like this south side of that. But I mean, you have Lazy, you have Hunter's Haven, you have Misty Meadows, Caddy Corner, you have the campsites and the observatory and the mountain. Retail Row's not too far away either as you continue to go west.
Yep.
I mean, you have a little bit on that island in the middle of the lake as well. Maybe even reaching into the Weeping Woods. There's all kinds of wood there if you go there. So there's so many options of resources of loot that are so condensed into that region. It makes sense for players to go there. On top of that, then you do get those eliminations. You do have the resources of the loot, and it makes sense. If you think about it for more than 4.5 seconds, which my brain just decided to turn on for the day. And going into game number two, depending on where the bus does go, you talk about the bisection of the map is the ideal scenario, because then you're going to be able to get more option to where you want to drop. I mean, there was nobody in Sweaty Sands. There was nobody in Slurpee. There was nobody in the Holly Hedges. Realistically, only maybe a few went into Pleasant Park, and this is exactly the type of route that you want.
Now there's going to be some Sweaty Sands.
Cuts the map in half, and now players are just going to be able to spread wherever they want to go.
Yeah, this is probably one of the most ideal bus routes you could kind of look for in a tournament like this, because, I mean, there's still the bus went right next to Sweaty, and there's maybe one person going there. If not, I think he's going Coral, which, once again, Sweaty Sands being left alone.
Why?
Potentially maybe one player there. It's crazy to me. It's usually always under some action, and it's a very good place to get a lot of loot, especially for a solo player. And, yeah, once again, it's left completely unharmed. So the fact that Sweaty Sands, maybe someone decides to use that as a rotation tool, noticing that there's not any players going there, but north part of the map, still a lot of players going to Steamy Sacks. Less or so people going to Colossal Coliseum, probably because of Buck T, kind of scaring everybody away from that area. Retail and Caddy, though, I mean, there's 10 to 15 players once again in that area. Same with Misty. You have 5 more players there, so still a bunch of action to go through in the southeast part of the map.
And that bus nearly went directly over Dirty Docks. There was one player in the docks, like one person that held on long enough. Start here with Kiru in Steamy. He's going to get a couple minis and the AR to this, a little bit to work with, and I mean, we'll see which direction that does go. Dev is tiny here, down to 15 health. Relentless Rupert going to drop early, losing out on the firefight. Got to hit those shots, but Dev here is currently the population of the struggle bus. The battle bus is gone, but Dev's on the struggle bus right now.
Yeah, it's going to be quite a rough rotation for a lot of these players, but we're going to see it's another centralized zone as far as the first zone is going to look at. Char Demon's going to be by himself with a lever action, and I mean, that's all he's really got. And there he goes. As we see a nice jump up from Young is going to take him out completely. We see it is going to be a northwestern zone. So Coral Castle, that one player that went Coral. Ooh. Surprise, there's an Ewok in that bush, as you see Juicy Pickle Boy is going to end up popping out like a lunatic, and they're just taking him out easily. Karu's going to take down Dev. That is an unfortunate player-on-player action right there. as we see, Dev's going to drop once again a little bit early on. Carrier's probably going to feel a little bit bad about it, but I mean, he's got his own tournament to win here, so he's going to keep on moving, and we'll see where his rotation ends up being. I think he ended up going Steamy Stacks, and there's still a couple players around, so Carrier could still come out of the early game with quite a few kills here.
Yeah, and I think that fares worse for Dev than it does for Keru. You know, if it goes the other way, granted, Dev only had like 13 health to work with there going into that, unless he by somehow had found a mini or was able to get a shield pot or something of that nature. But, you know, it's worse for Dev because Dev dropped a little bit earlier, you know, mid to late 20s, I think, if not early 30s in the last round. So, again, missing out on a lot of crucial placement points here, now left with just the one game to be able to make up that lost ground. So Keru, as you mentioned, though, a couple players still here around Steamy. Ander was looking for one and had seen the player going around the stack itself, but not able to follow up with that. Does have the tack shotty, or the lever action shotty rather, and AR and a sniper rifle. Nice little shield pot pickup to get to the full 200. Put a cone over the top. Keep yourself safe for the time being before you start to adventure to look for the source of the sounds that is below you.
Yeah, still quite a few players that are going to have to rotate out of Steamy as well. I mean, it's quite a far rotation that they're going to have to go through. Luckily, they picked the POI that gives them the easiest access to get out of. So, I mean, that's probably why a lot of players tend to go towards Steamy. Even if the zone is very far away, they can still end up taking the flight path up and going on that rotation. Alexander's going to end up finding some pre-built builds here and not any players around. So going to keep on moving around, trying to see if he can find Keru, who was here earlier on. Eventually find somebody, though, and Noel sings him a Christmas carol as he goes down, and he's going to drop out of round number 2.
Up on the rooftop was Noel. Didn't even hear those reindeer paws, and he just dropped straight in and hit a quick one-tap right there. Ander didn't stand a chance. Had no idea. I mean, obviously had an idea that there was a player around, but just didn't know where, and Noel somehow able to sneak on in and get that elimination. Now, 2 other players here still somewhere in the stats here. A few shots getting traded out and making the right move over here. As you mentioned, though, looking for this plan. Now, of course, seeing the gliders is going to give you the tip that, hey, there is someone here. Try to get to the ground as fast as you can. Try to get some shots off. Hit those connect. 120 is going to land. See if we can get anything more than that as they're tracking through the air. Where's that aim assist? There's one. 40 off. See if you can get any more. Shots coming back now, though. All of a sudden, this is a different firefight that, well, maybe you want to close the gap here if you're going to try to take this one on.
Ooh, yeah, it is it's going to be quite hard, but I say that as he just keeps destroying the player below him. So really not having any issues there as we see him nice moves going around, and now we'll see if he can end up getting this kill or if he just decides to keep looking for some players around Steamy, which is going to be the case for right now. And let's see if he can find some early action. Does find some shots, and he's going to find a player. Going to drop down and get into the car as well. So he's going to drive by kind of area, but he's going to end up finding that kill. That is Keru, too, so a huge kill to get.
Yeah, that is huge to be able to win out on that one. And of course, Keru was just trying to get away from that, and then coming out, it wasn't even a build battle of anything. They just started pulling the trigger on the shotguns to see who's going to get the shot to land, and Keru comes out on the receiving end of the boomstick. See an elimination picked up. Joe Baca coming back in here. Had a pretty decent showing in that last round. Now under fire once again, dropping down close to the ground level, down to about 68 health here. Still getting shot at. Doesn't have a chance to pop any of these minis. Has plenty of minis to use, just doesn't have the chance to do so. And now using the metal, obviously, is a sign that materials are a bit of a problem. 11 builds left here, trying to find the edit out. This is going to be an edit on the wall to get the shotgun shot to connect. Does get the one, but still playing a little bit of cat and mouse, trying to get a little bit healthier because you are only one shotgun burst away from getting one tapped. So a very smart play here from Joe Baca.
Yeah, and he's going to drop down, taking a gander at the potential leaderboards here, but we'll update you guys when those come through. Joe Baca right now, though, going to have 2 kills already early on. Looking forward to getting some more throughout the rest of this game. Obviously, you can still get quite a few going into the later stages as we see starts to progress through the second zone. The first zone is closing here in a couple minutes. So quite a bit of players around him, though. Still 2 players above him, and he's going to kind of figure out what he wants to do from there, making it a little bit awkward as far as rotations go. Noel is going to end up dropping down to zombie there.
Christmas is canceled.
So Christmas is canceled as Noel goes down, but Now we're going to start to see if anyone else gets out, but Bucky's going to find Joe Baca. So Joe Baca, who was having a great game, ends up going down as well. And Bucky, the one who's had the greatest games of all so far, is going to be the one to take him out.
See Kakashi not really building up here. There's plenty of materials to build up, but just kind of playing this one, playing the waiting game on this, try to get the shots out from underneath. A couple of shotguns in the inventory. Now he's going to be on the chase here, looking to see Pearson again in the build battle. Does get the 39 to connect. 64 follow-up is going to be enough to get the 2-tap. Not even trading any damage. Peffer there was not able to get turned around quick enough to put anything back. So Pearson comes out unscathed, even without needing the siphon. Kakashi here still on the struggle of finding the player adjacent. Got to take some time into the water. You see the leaderboard popping up here. Buck T, understandably so, in first place, and that with the placement points alone, not even counting the eliminations. So 25 for that first, and we know with the 10 eliminations, going to be handily sitting in top on the top slot. And Bugs right there was the player that got second place in the first round. So understandably in the 1-2 punch between those two. And I think they're going to be sitting relatively comfortable to move in to at least qualify for the finals at the end of the month. Just looking to continue their success today to get that extra little bit of cash for the top 5 payout.
Yeah, Cycle immediately going to go into some action here. He's got a fantastic inventory, so to lose this now would not be very great. He's got quite a lot to lose. Chang ends up going down as well, so that is going to be out of game 2 for him, as he didn't have a great result in game 1 either. I mean, got, I believe, top 10 and not a whole lot of kills, but really was looking for this game as a way to improve his morale and go into round 3 with a good game on top of him. But Cycle's going to have to keep rotating. He's got a bit of ways to go and no ways to really heal through it. He's obviously got that 50 shield to go to get him over or close to 100 shield, but no bandages means he has to go aggressive on that fight. Keep you updated to see as far as that fight's going to go. He doesn't end up winning it. So those 2 very, very good weapons are now going to be in the hands of Demon, and I mean, that's a huge win for him. Storm fights, I never suggest are a good thing to do, but ends up working out for Demon there.
Yeah, you see the lone arrow here lost in the zone right now. Going to see if they're going to be following here where Ego is going. Food Llama in a fight on the ground level. No Bill's just trying to completely brute force through these structures that the player is trying to keep between themselves and Food here. Continuing to swing the pickaxe away. Hear the shotgun loading. Reload your own weapons. Get your health back with the chug splashes. And see what you can do. Of course, a couple arrows that are in the immediate vicinity as well. So soon enough, might have to worry about a third party coming in with that one coming in from the side. The Juicy Pickle Boy here in Holly Hedges waiting on the other side of this wall. You hear the shots coming through. 46 traded back and forth, but Juicy's got no shield to work with for the time being. Just trying to get up, get safe. He's going to pop these mushrooms to get that health back over time. Does have height right now as well, and a decent amount of builds to work with. Just got to see, got to find the angle to get the shots to trade. Good trades back for a 72 hit. A huge hit there for Juicy, who's still getting health back over time and still now in the aggressive position of this fight. And Juicy's playing this one very well.
Yeah, smart to keep those ticking and to keep getting on some health, but Food Llama is going to take this time to get some more health as well. He gets back up to 100 shield, but he's currently capped off. I mean, he has no other ways to really include his health. I mean, and now he's got the storm fight to worry about, and he's got no bandages or medkits or anything, so he's really got to win this fight now. Gets outbuilt right there, and he's going to end up going down and dropping quite a bit of health in the time being. He's in a terrible spot, and he doesn't really have a great opportunity to get some shots off. Finds one right there on the jump out, but doesn't find much more than about 30 damage. Still a very awkward fight. He's down to 2 health.
Oh, no!
The storm. And that's what happens when you take storm fights with no bandages. Juicy's going to find his 4th kill of the match, and he's going to start getting a move on here. He's got to get out of Holly fast.
Yeah, going to be chasing the storm here to see what they can do. Of course, the siphon coming back to at least help a little bit. You get the car, so you're going to be able to move a little bit faster as this zone does start to pull. So decent enough for Juicy, and of course that was the do or die scenario on the other side for Food Llama. You get that kill, then you do get the siphon. There's a chance, 51 health. You know, you have something to work with there, but just couldn't get the trade favorable at the end of the road in the last tick through the storm. That's a heartbreaker way to go, honestly. But I mean, just listen to what you said, and storm fights are a thing. Just don't advise it.
Yeah, and you know, something crazy that no one ever thought would be in Fortnite was cars. We saw like the introduction of ATVs and helicopters and glide boards, and we're like, yeah, there's no way they add cars. And just seeing cars in the game now is it's quite interesting. Obviously, going back to the day and age of mobility, I mean, you had so much
Yep.
mobility options. You had bouncers, launch pads, ATVs, the glide board, like I was talking about. There were so many ways to move around. And with the newer additions, newer seasons of Fortnite, it's a very, very difficult to try and find some of those areas that give you mobility. And that's why when Mythics were a thing, why the Shockwave launcher was so good is because it gave you, I wouldn't say an infinite amount because you only had a certain amount, but it gave you so much mobility that could constantly get you in or out of fights and out of situations that no one else could get out of or into. So it was so important to have, and mobility's always, I feel like, been the name of the game in Fortnite, and is why you could see some of those things being so strong in past metas before. There goes your car, and that's that's what happens. You build a wall on a car.
All right.
It doesn't want to be with you anymore. Smart combination there. Demon gonna use his AR and the RPG combo. Try and get the wall down before the RPG hits to get some damage onto that player in front of him. But that's unfortunate. He was probably gonna use that car to get out, and now it's beached a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit of a problem to have to deal with that. Rocket's going to be going down, still trying to find this 1-2 between the shots. That, you know, what we talked about in the last game, you don't get to see this combo very often anymore because of just the rarity of RPGs and the fact that nobody really puts any merit to them. But see, Demon's going to just take this one up close and personal. One shotgun shot's going to be enough. That's Juicy going to go down. Couldn't get the favorable side of this one. And truck has been reclaimed. There is a player that is relatively close by as well. You see him bouncing in the water right there. I'm sure Demon does as well. You see Zephyr here in a fight center of the zone inside of Stronghold. And this is the thing that you and I, a few months ago, we saw in the FNCS, I do believe, where there's so many cars now in this that someone could just be sitting in a car and just not moving, not driving, because there's no indicator that anybody's in the car. Someone did it in the FNCS, and they got to like top 15, top 20 in the position. There's no indicator anyone's in the car, so you just get in the car, just sit there and wait.
Yeah, it's a legit strategy as we see Zephyr takes out a nice kill onto Young as he tries to rotate into a smarter place here in Stronghold. But yeah, like you're talking about, there's no indication. So we saw one player, I forgot his name, but in particular would sit in a car and then wait till someone would go through. Someone even built a box around his car before, and he would just jump out and destroy them, and then he'd jump right back into the car as if nothing happened.
The car. Yeah. Classic. I love to see the innovation and just the way people's brains work and the strategies they come up with, and it's something that's completely asinine. It doesn't make any sense at all. It's legitimately, there's just no reason it should work, but they're able to get away with it. Even here in a storm fight on the top left side, he's going to be able to come out on top of that one. Good shot just to break through and brute force in. Mighty Ego going to go down right there, and you see Zephyr in zone. And I'm so grateful in the sense that yes, the zone pulled to the northeast side or northwest side of the map. I'm even more grateful it pulled away from Coral, because I despise the water levels just like anyone else, and I hate zones that end in Coral. It is the worst part of the map, and I cannot wait for the update to get rid of it.
Yeah, it's pretty rough sometimes as far as that goes, but we'll see if it's going to be coming into effect at any time throughout these next two games. Obviously not really in this one, but Stealthy Stronghold could be the main focus of attention here, as we see Demon is going to start building his way up. 3 kills for him so far, so 6 points at top of the 2 points for being in top 25. Not too bad of a game for him as he moves on to try and get towards the qualification out of the qualifier number 1. Take an overview look at the Stronghold. A lot of walls on top of the walls that were already pre-built, as you see players trying to build up and around and trying to get themselves into safer and smarter spots. Height advantage, usually what we see wins at the end of the day, so that's probably what a lot of players are deciding to do now, is to try and get themselves into smarter positions, smarter height advantages. That way they can get themselves some potential easier kills. Obviously, the reason height advantage is so good in Fortnite is because you're looking directly down at your opponent's noggin. I mean, you're straight up getting headshots because they're right below you. It's very easy to get the kills. Also, makes it a lot easier for you to track them instead of them tracking you, because you can see every which direction they're going, and why, you know, height is so important. You get the extra edit windows potentially on players rotating in, like we saw from Buck T last game. Got him 3 extra kills in the late game. So height is super important. And having the addition of bouncers in your inventory makes it to where even if you start to lose height, you can bounce your way off and make another rotation up.
Yeah, and you'll see the difference maker between this. You see some players, maybe not so much in solos, but we get into duos and trios competitions. Players that do get on the high ground a little too early, and they use all of their mats, and then they don't have the option to be able to waterfall down if the zone goes over terrain where they have to, decline or try to get closer to their opponents to try to take some shots. Demon is gonna be able to have this opportunity now to be able to go over, claim the loot from that elimination he just picked up at range right there. And there is a lot of it to sift through, so a good engage, good shots there from Demon to be able to just get the quick shots and a phenomenal loadout. I mean, a couple gold weapons plus the RPG, and Demon is gonna be sitting pretty here, but gonna have to at least get a few more resources along the way, a few more mats to be able to keep himself up there. And it's just one of those concerns of, yes, you have high ground, but did you get high ground so soon that you have to now kind of rely on using other people's builds? And of course, that is the name of Fortnite. You talk about the name of mobility and battle royales in general. The name of Fortnite is being in control of every single build around you.
Yeah, that's true. You want to make sure that every single wall around you is editable. That way you can easily move your way around in case you got to go through any direction. And that's why you're just going to see Firefly here. Going to try and do the same. For right now, for the time being, everything around him is going to be close. He's going to take this wall down, make sure that's his own as well, and just start carving through this piece by piece. You can see, so this is obviously an important thing to find, because even though that's just a piece of brick on the ground, that's usually where players like to leave their backup kind of resources if they're making like a very big fortress. That way they know where to go in the end. And so that actually is pretty important to find, but obviously that being abandoned recently to go into the next rotation. So not going to be too important for Firefly in that rotation there. But now is a good time for him, since he's already in the next zone and doesn't have to move any farther. I was going to say, to make an edit window and to try and get some extra kills like we saw from Buck T last game. This is a perfect opportunity to take out some free kills here. Get yourself a few extra points. Papalev's going to do just that. He's not in the zone, but he is going to take height advantage and take some shots down at the players below him. Also another smart thing to do. Papalev is still going to control any builds leading up to his path, and he should just be able to take a bouncer and move to the next zone easily.
Zombie picks up a couple there. The suppressed SMG just going from the top, trying to get some shots on, some damage across. The build's going to be taken out low, but now just in pursuit of the storm, not really wanting to take any damage whatsoever. A few ticks to come through, down to 84 health here, just trying to stay in charge, but people that are already in zone doing well to get the shots off, to keep the floor out from underneath. So you got to put the floor and the cones down to make sure you can maintain this height. And now trying to capitalize over the existing builds players already have here. Control these walls and keep anything below you. But Papalev obviously is the one with the target on his back right now, and a little bit of fall damage right there, down to 40 health from the fall and the storm. So not ideal, because you don't have any med kits or bandages or anything to work with outside of just your shields, and only having 141 total is just a couple of quick shotgun shots away from being dropped down.
Yeah, and that 41 health is really going to put him in a kind of awkward spot to decipher where he wants to take the fights from here. Ruby Fight is going to end up taking a bit of damage, going to have to use this opportunity to heal up, but it's got to immediately start going on the complete other side of the zone, so has to start moving with the moving zone. Nice enough rotation, gives this player time to get some heals off. I'll just say, smarter thing to do, go with those check splashes, get the insta health, leave the 50 shields for later, because you want to just get that quick rotation. Don't want to be stuck left behind and start taking some awkward fights and be in a terrible spot. Does pick up a kill onto Papalev, though, as they do start their rotation. So RubyFi's going to find a player right next to them as well. Ooh. And just going to get out of that, too. So down to 15 players already, as we see, like we normally see, going to the 6th, 7th-ish zone, it'll drop from 30 to 10 players in a matter of seconds because of how awkward and how crazy the rotations tend to be.
K-Dot picks up one. Ruby using the bouncers to try to move here, but there's a lot of staircases, a lot of walls that are going to interrupt that flow of motion. Demon here on the high ground, aggressing on the bottom right, just making sure to stay up there. Great shot there from Ruby through the edit, able to get the elimination onto Vinny. Demon here only having 2 rockets left. Gonna have to find something to replace that here very quickly, which is the only other problem about using the RPGs, that really nobody else even bothers to carry any rockets and don't ever use them or have a necessity for them. But using the bouncer to make this rotation, Carter once again dropping down just outside of 10th place. Zephyr going to claim that one, and Demon now on ground level with only 14 builds, trying to stack up some more, get some stone out of this one, and try to get these walls up, get this health back that was lost. And now you got to find elimination here because there has to be something to replace that RPG. It's just a matter of what's going to be. And Bucky actually goes down to the storm damage.
Yeah, not great for Buck T as he ends up going down. Firefly's going to end up going down to Demon, who's had quite a good game. We obviously got some really good kills from, or good weapons from the kill earlier, but it is going to go down right there. So drop it down to 5 people as K-Dot looks to be a very Star Wars-esque battleground here inside of Stealthy as we see battle starting to go through the trees, and you go. They always say look up in the trees and be careful. As we see, Ruby Five's gonna find a kill on K-Dot, and that's gonna bring it down to 4 players total. Bud's looking for a win on this one because he got his win taken away last time. Another kill goes down for him, and only 3 players left. Opportunity for Bugs to make redemption here, but yeah, no build.
We'll see what the move is going to be. Ruby here still on the high ground is going to do exactly what we saw last game, where just put that AR spray down on the players below. 52 tag is going to be coming from above. Bugs here trying to keep himself relevant in this, but literally 0 builds and cannot get out of this. Try to get anything to go here, but in the zone, Chug Splash is all you have. Get the shotgun, get the siphon back here. Maybe there's going to be some mats. There are enough for 10, 15 builds here. Does get a little bit. Just has to get out of the water to try to get up this hillside. Ruby's got this entire tree to try to take out. Smart for Bugs to utilize this time to get the shield back. Does have 50 from the minis. Get the Chug Splashes to get 70. Has a flopper in the inventory as well if you need it. But Ruby is now on the aggression. Does a huge 105 on Bugs right there. And is going to get the finishing touch. Wow. 52 to the dome. And that is going to be Ruby coming out on top for elimination. And once again, Bugs coming up in 2nd place.
Yeah, and unfortunate. I mean, it's great, to get 2nd place 2 rounds in a row means you're very consistent, but it's unfortunate.
Yeah.
It's 2 games in a row as well. So unfortunate for Bugs as he tries to maybe get a win in round 3, but that consistency is really important. Being able to get that 2 rounds in a row, being able to be that consistent is very difficult to do, especially in tournament settings. So impressive from Bugs to be able to get there. And now we'll see if he can bring that into game number 3, but obviously an impressive win from Rubified. Didn't have any kills leading up into like the top 10, ended up with 4 kills at the end, and obviously that 1st place. So quite a bit of points gained through that game, and some really well thought out rotations. And obviously was in an awkward spot as far as the first moving zone went, had to kind of navigate through the tree and was on the complete other side of the zone, but ended up making the smart rotation through the trees and found some room here and there to navigate through, and ended up getting quite a few kills along the way. So really solidified a good game.
Yeah, and that's a point that you talk about the Star Wars-esque ending right there. The vegetation really getting in the way. Then the inherent bushes, like it's not like the full 3D bushes that you'll see people just kind of hiding away in the plains areas. In this jungle type of biome, if you will. The leaves just a little bit lower to the ground, so you still have some visibility, but just because it is naturally darker, it's a little bit harder to kind of see the players around you. But not the main point of this one. We saw Demon taking high ground in like zone 5, zone 6 when the zone started to initially move. And I was talking about there's always that question mark, that concern of did you take high ground too soon? Because then you have to utilize more resources to try to get the rotations. Of course, we saw a lot of gunfire coming at Demon as he made the rotation across, was able to then just destroy every wall and every cone and every floor that he put up, which immediately just rinsed all through the mats that he had, forced to the ground level. And then you just can't get back up because you don't have the mats anymore. The same thing we saw with Bugs. Just didn't have the mats to be able to climb up. And what an inconvenient little incline to come out of the water onto that little island where you just could not get up until you get the other elimination. Versus the other side where Ruby waited a little bit longer, waited a couple extra zones at moving around to take high ground, still had 50 or 60 builds in like zone 7, zone 8 when we got down to the top 10. And was just a really good utilization of those mats. So it's always a true test of skill and a true test of understanding the game flow and the pacing of the game, to the sense of when do I take high ground? Do I have enough mats to maintain the high ground once I do take it? So very well played there by Ruby, and understandably taking that victory.
Yeah, it was. It was a really well thought out game. And obviously, if you're looking at Bug's point of view, getting 2nd place twice in a row, running out of mats, I mean, I'd be okay with getting 2nd place in a row if my only problem is not having mats to get back up to the guy in 1st place. So I think if your Bug's moving on to round 3, that's your only downside so far has been the lack of mats at the end game. So if you can find a way to save 100 200 mats going towards that last circle or that last rotation. Could end up being another, or not another, but an easy win in round 3, because obviously Bugs has the consistency to keep getting into that top 2, but can't quite find the wins because of being stuck on the low ground with no mats. Obviously, every Fortnite player is going to know if you have no mats and you're on the low ground and the other player's on height, you pretty much just sit there waving a white flag until he like opens an edit and decides to kill you, because there's no easy way to get back up to the top.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy, and Bugs doing it back-to-back rounds, just running out of mats. So now Bugs knows what's got to do to be able to get to that top slot, to be able to finally walk away with the Victory Royale. There is one more chance for Bugs to do it. We are going to be right back. We're going to take a quick break. When we do get back, we'll take a look at the leaderboard, see where everybody stands. Don't go anywhere. Round 3 is coming up next. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to the Atlanta Community Open, our first open qualifier for the month of February, featuring Fortnite, leading up to the end of the road with the grand finals and decent little prize pool along the way. My name's Trevor McNeil. Join alongside me, my last remaining brain cell for the day. After this, it is nap time. Troy Welling, how you doing, buddy? You ready for game 3?
Good, yeah, ready for game 3. Obviously, a little bit of underperformance from a couple players in games 2 that were probably looking for a bounce back from game number 1. So going into the last game of the qualifier, I think this is a very, very important game for quite a few players. Obviously, if you're looking to keep that first place, Buck T is still someone you're looking at. Obviously, had a fantastic game 1, less so of a fantastic game 2, but not a bad game 2 at all. But really looking to keep that first place because, like we've said, top 30 qualify, but first through fifth place all get a little bit of change alongside in each qualifier. So that's ideally what these guys are looking at going into the last game of the day.
Yeah, as you mentioned, top 5 going to be getting paid out today. We can take a look at the leaderboard, see where everybody is standing currently. And of course, as you mentioned, a phenomenal showing there from Buck T to open this one out. Had a huge showing in round number 1. A little bit lackluster in round number 2. Bugsy, though, with back-to-back second place finishes, stays true to the consistency and is sitting in second place. RubyFight after coming out with a win in third place now. And then you have a little bit of a gap there between those top 3 and the rest of the lobby. So obviously the bar's been set in that 50-point threshold for those top 3. It's just a matter of who's going to come out on top in this final game.
Yeah, that shows the impressiveness of Bugs throughout the last 2 games, right? To be able to match the 2 players that have the victory royales and be in the middle of both of them and only 1 point off of the man who got 45 points in the first game alone. It's a really impressive performance from Bugs throughout these 2 games. So I think going to game 3, if he keeps doing what he's doing, another second place really is not terrible. So I think would be okay with another one at the end of the day. Could eventually, I mean, if Buck T has a less so of a great game, Bugs could still keep the consistency, could take over in that first place spot. And now even Ruby, with that good victory off of last game, could also have a chance to get into that top spot. So realistically, anybody that is around that 30-ish point mark, get a good victory, get a few kills, and you see players like Buck T Bugs or RubyFight go down earlier on, you could really have a chance to take out first as well going out of qualifier number 1. So I think there's still a lot of chance here in game number 3 for quite a few players to get where they want to be in the top 5.
And it's not even a concern of like, okay, just look at the top 3, right? Like, you could go down all the way to Karu. And we saw Buck T get 45 points out of round number 1. Buck T drops in the first 5 players. Karu gets 10 eliminations and a victory. Then Karu is in position to take first place. Correct? You're going to need a few favors from the rest of the lobby. And that goes for, it could be Vinny, it could be Sick, it could be Zombie, it could be like any of the players that are below Karu even. Like, there is still enough room there for a few favors from the lobby. These players could get into that top 5 paid positioning, and it's certainly not guaranteed that those top 5 are cemented, that is going to be those 5 players that do get paid out. But with Bugs' consistency coming through to get second place both times around, as we mentioned, just get a little bit more conservative on the mat usage so that you're able to have a little more in case something, worst case scenario, you run out again and you just physically cannot get back into the zone. On the other side, we've seen players that have been able to take high ground, maintain high ground, not run out of materials. I mean, it's the perfect storm. They get coincidentally also a really good loadout, which I guess that also helps. But they're just able to take care of business across the board and then come away with the victory. So, well-rounded gameplay has been the factor for the two that we've seen take out the victories in game 1 and 2.
Yeah, and it have to be the same thing for game 3. I'm assuming from one of those top players to really try and make their mark back up, you got to have a very consistent game through the early game to the end game. So we're going to have to see that in game 3 as well. I'm interested to see if players are going to be able to do that, or if the player pool diminishes, or some players play a lot more aggressive. And that's so going into the last game of the tournament, we usually see completely different play styles than what we saw throughout the rest of the tournament. Doesn't matter if you play the same way through 4 or 5 rounds and then the last one, completely change it up, because players that are near the bottom, if you're not in the top 30 right now, those players are going to be so aggressive. They want to find every fight they can. They want to try and get points early. That way they can get a good game going for themselves.
There's also the question mark then of, okay, yes, they want to play aggressive, but then do they also just want to play for placement? Because there is a lot on the table for placement points. Not only is there a lot on the table for the placement points, there's a lot on the table for the money here and for the qualification at the end of the road for the grand finals for that prize pool as well. I mean, you can follow along as we make our trek down to that grand finals on social media at Skillshot Media along the way. Hashtag ATL Open and the IATLGG to be able to voice your input, see what you have to say, how you think this is progressing, who you're supporting, who you think is going to come out on top. And granted, we've only seen a small collection of the players as we get into qualifier number 2 next week, and qualifier number 3 the week after before we get to the grand final. So we're starting here with this small collection, and we're going to see which direction it does go as we start into game number 3.
Yeah, and I'm sure we're going to find a lot of these players that didn't qualify today. We're going to see them next week as well. You can't let that grind stop you. Obviously, having the chance to go through 3 qualifiers, even if you don't make it through the first one, you could get first in the second one, and it could be an easier playthrough in the qualifiers. You have 30 of the best players in qualifier 1 go through now. You don't have to face them in round 2. So it's like, theoretically going later on in the qualifiers, maybe it gets easier for some of the players that, we're struggling a little bit as far as the first qualifier goes, or weren't quite prepared to go into the tournament. So that's why I like having this week after week kind of qualifier system. Gives you some time to prepare, gives you some time to react or watch the other qualifiers to see how other players played through. You watch someone like Bugs or Buck T and figure out, how they can say so consistent and have great games like that. If you're able to mirror that going into through your qualifier, could do the exact same thing. As far as the bus goes in this one, another centralized-ish one. It looks to be a little bit more northern though, so a lot of that southern parts of the map maybe missed out on. I say that, but everybody still loves them. Some Misty Meadows and Caddy Corner, so probably still see a high influx of players there.
Curious thing about this time around, you see a decent amount of players making their way over towards Holly Hedges, which has been relatively unscathed as we get in the early game portions. And we'll see how that is going to develop as those players do go that way. Starting out Papalev here, and pretty much on his own out here, because nobody around, and phenomenal, great start, a shield pop.
Yeah, I always like to drop on some early shields. The worst thing to do, I was going to say, is take some a 50 shield and then get some minis right after, but no worries. So Papalev is he finds both here in this little courtyard area, so he's going to be easily up to 100 HP, 100 shield, and get a move on here. We'll see what his rotation decides to be, because like you said, we saw a few players in Holly Hedges, so he can actually probably go north and go to Sweaty Sands. I think that might be the best play, and looking as to where the zone goes, Sweaty Sands, a little bit, maybe half of Sweaty Sands might be in that similar area as well, so that is something we might see some players do, like you're looking at Carter right now, deciding to completely avoid the fights in Holly Hedges and start going a little bit more northern. That way can stay in the zone, doesn't have to worry about that rotation, and can start moving on. Cheng somehow killing himself in round 3. That's a rough spot to be in. One of the first eliminations is going to be him on himself. And an unfortunate spot for Cheng as he goes down. But if you haven't been here throughout the stream or you want to keep updated, we do have a giveaway currently going on, bit.ly/ATL Open -giveaway to enter. We're giving away some HyperX clouds and a gift card to Insight Apparel. So make sure to enter that giveaway. The link will be floating around in chat as well. So make sure to get active and get attuned to that. Always nice to not be a part of the tournament and still win something. As we always like to give away, and you could be in the action yourself. You can win just as much as the players are winning in Fortnite right now.
Absolutely. And shout out to Insight, Skillshot, and HyperX for this. But I mean, I could give credit to HyperX peripherals all day long just because well, they're awesome. And I have my own HyperX headset. It's my favorite headset I've ever had. But it's awesome to be able to kind of give back to those people. Not only just the ones that are playing and potentially the winnings that they're going to get. If they enter the giveaway and could come away with some of these prizing, but also just the people that are watching. So shout out to everybody that does come here, because if you're not here watching, then there's no reason that Troy and I are here casting. So, right, got to give a little extra appreciation to those people that are here.
And now see Carter gonna take some fish, get that flopper, and take this time really to just relax before all the action starts to ensue. 32 players going to be in this one, so like we were kind of expecting throughout a qualifier kind of esque period, if you're one of those players that are in the bottom 20 and realistically have 5 to 10 points, it's going to be really difficult to get yourself into the top 30. But it's not like it's insanely hard to get back to. So we'll see a lot of players still trying to stay in that top 30. I mean, even a good placement, you don't even have to get kills throughout the whole tournament, but 3 placements can get you up there. But as we see, Kakashi going to take down Mighty Ego, Lego My Ego, as he goes down, unfortunately, in 32nd. The nice thing about this, 32 players or 37 players in total, is the top 25 is still the placement. So, you just have to survive the early wave or the early onslaught of kills, and you get yourself some placement points. So, if you are one of those players pushing through that is close to the top 30 or just on the brink of it, this should be a good game for you just to get some good placement points and try and snipe some kills.
And this is probably the most forehead observation that you could make in just saying that the best way to make sure you survive is to have materials. And I'm wondering if Bugs is listening in the sense that he's almost maxed out on mats already. Like, he's just missing a little bit of, I think it was metal that you're missing out on, but already almost maxed out and just sitting in a position now where, yeah, okay, cool, you're like full up on mats, and yeah, just like 3 stacks of metal, and you're completely maxed out on everything. So a great position to be in, decent loadout, you get the blue tack, you got a green AR, you have all kinds of utility and healing, and potentially finding your first elimination here with the build battle over the river on the rotation in. Does not have the high ground, looking to make sure to keep the walls up, editing out, making a side path over here. Doesn't have any ability to go up. A player on the other side is doing very well to keep the cones above Bugs here to not let him elevate any further. You see the walls coming through. Edit on the staircase, great reverse edit on the other side. Quick little tag there with the shotgun. Probably not as much damage as you would hope to get through. That wall not going to be yours. Now just trying to break through this one with this heavy AR. Trying to get the stairs. Does have the staircase. Does get a huge shot, but losing the rest. And Huck's actually going to come away and get that elim onto Bugs. Even being outgunned, only having the green lever action, able to come out with that elimination.
Yeah, that's huge. Like we're talking about, Bugs was looking to try and take first overall in this tournament with 2 really consistent performances through game 1 through game 2, and was only 1 point off the man that got 45 points, Buckty, in the first game. So that is a really upsetting finish for him. Obviously going to qualify and still go through, but it is a really unfortunate spot to be in, considering you're so close to getting the bragging rights as well of taking out first in the qualifier. But to have a chance to take home some extra prize money going into the finals eventually. So nice kill from Hux, and an unfortunate placement from Bugs means that there is still competition. Like we said, for the top 5 could change up drastically. All you need is a win, and now Bugs drops out of the top 5 to whoever takes that win, or even some decent amount of points, like 20 points total throughout the game, will drop him out as well if you're one of those players hovering around that 30-point mark.
I mean, there's a 17-point gap, I think, between third place, and then there was like a 3-way tie for 4th, 5th, 6th at like 34 points. So absolutely is feasible. And as I was talking about, the lobby does you a few favors. Top of the leaderboard gets cleared out, and all of a sudden you have this opportunity. See Hug still farming up some mats. Young in the top left here, finding himself in a fight here in the woods, trying to keep the walls up, and trees just not surprisingly in the way. There's a lot of trees in the woods, typically where they do belong, but if they fall, do they make a sound? That's the question.
That's true. It's a great point, and yes, I feel like they do make a sound. You just don't hear it, right? Because if a tree does fall in the woods, it's gonna make some sounds, and everything else is gonna hear it. But if you're not in the woods directly, then I mean, it still makes a sound, right?
It's Schrodinger's sound. You don't know if it exists or not because you're not there.
Do you think a hot dog is a sandwich? I was in a debated conversation earlier today.
It's a taco.
Do you think a hot dog is a sandwich? Okay,
It's
all
a
right. So
taco.
we were talking about that as well. It is a taco. It absolutely is a taco. But it's also considered a sandwich. But it's also not considered a sandwich. And there's a lot of stuff. A soup is technically considered a wet salad, and then pie could also almost be considered a sandwich because it has a bottom and a top of breading kind of. But the only issue is that it has a back. So also could be considered a taco if you flip a pie over or like cut it in half. It was crazy. We got into long detail about what could be
You
considered.
know the ocean is a soup too, right?
Can you drink the ocean? I guess you could. Yeah.
I mean, you can. Yeah. It's just
Wow.
a conglomerate of liquid and a lot of other, what's the word? Ingredients. Fish, vegetation, salt.
Wow.
The ocean is
Yeah.
a soup.
And we haven't discovered much of the soup, so we don't even know what's in the soup, really.
Very
That's
true.
even-
It's a very
even
large soup.
Scarier. It's a huge soup that has a lot of things that many people have not seen before or eaten or
The two
been a
brain
part of.
cells are starting to warm up, guys.
Oh yeah, we are
Here we are
game
in
three.
game
This
number
is
3.
Loud and proud, smart guys here in action. I mean, genuinely, I can't believe. Do you think boneless wings are wings? Or do you think they're just chicken tenders? Or chicken nuggets?
They see, now you're gonna get into this one. Because I prefer boneless wings, but they are chicken nuggets.
I do too. I
But they're
agree with you.
separately-
I don't
they're
think
differently
they're wings,
prepared.
but yeah, true, exactly. I agree with you that they're not considered wings, but I also would prefer boneless wings. I know people. It's just much easier to have boneless wings, and it's much
Yes.
smarter in my opinion. Hashtag boneless wings in chat or bone if you like bone in. You'll get banned, so just let me know and I'll ban you. But Kakashi right here is gonna sit in the sand and mole his way around as we look for one more player to drop to get into that top 25
This
mark.
is my kind of
Salty
gameplay.
Tower's not gonna have any people, and exactly being a mole rat and digging around in the dirt is what we like to do. I like to look like an ostrich sometimes and have the rest of my body sticking out and just my head in the sand. It makes me feel like they don't see me.
As long as you can't see them, they can't see you. Hux has found himself another opponent. We've seen the first elimination he was able to get. Left him alone to do some material mining. You hear the shotgun loading off to his left. They got to find the wall to try to take it out. Get the wall replacement. Does not do so. Edits on the other side. Shot's not going to connect either way. Only has 65 health to work with, but does have that full shield. Trying to get a little bit of a predictive shot off. Try to get that staircase out of the way as well. Trying to see if they can get any replacement on these structures here with the lever shotty. Still hasn't really upgraded the inventory at all, and the shots coming through on this angle. Now you just got to hold this wall because this staircase to your left is really in your way, and there's not a lot you can do. Does not have any opportunity to pop these minis, get some more shield back, and another clip gone. Edit to the side, see if you can get anything back with a moment of opportunity to try to get that shield kicking back in. And is going to have at least enough time to pop that one, see if you get the shield pot off. That is not going to be the building's end, but there is now a third party entering into the fray. Shotgun hit, about 20 coming off of the player adjacent, but there is now a player down below as well, so now have to fight a battle on two fronts, and this could be trouble for one person that's stuck in the middle.
Yeah, it does make it really awkward for the extra player included in this fight. Luckily enough, doesn't seem like there's anyone really close enough to kind of take action in this fight as well, so it's just going to be these three temporarily. But that alone, just being in a 1 versus 1 instead of just a regular 1v1, does make it quite difficult as far as how you take the fight. So we'll see how Hux is going to decide to do it. He's going to take the outer edge and try and build his way in, taking over some walls here of the opponents that he's going up against. Working out so far for him, he's just going to try and take this wall. Player being smart about it, does get the wall replacement, but not able to get the edit quite through. So he is able to get pretty well off in this fight, though. Shot going to go through on him as he takes that well. Really well played from his opponent, taking him down almost nearly his whole shield bar. Now he's going to have to take this time to back up and heal.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. Your editing ability is phenomenal. It doesn't matter how good you are at editing. If you get the shots off first, that is the difference maker. And that is what we see here. Hux on the receiving end is able to edit through, but can't switch over to the weapon fast enough to get the return fire, and ends up losing a majority of the health. Because of that, 30 is not going to be enough to the trade. Vinny's going to come out with that elimination. Going to be the first there for Vinny. Doesn't have a lot of materials to work with either. Only about 25 to 30 builds left over after that. And Hitler in position, ready for the rest of the lobby to come to him. Vinny here still in the mix with this other player. Shotgun shots trying to trade back. Does get the floor edit as well. Looking for the wall. Let's see what edit get. 24 down on the player's side. Is going to be break through the wall. They're just going to WT straight in to Vinny's face. Up close and personal, and that's going to be enough. Lada is going to come away with their first elimination. So ones across the board for all three of the players we just saw.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive to see what just happened throughout that entire fight. There was obviously a lot of chaos to go through, but now the storm number 3, zone 3 is going to start closing in just about a minute. Looking at where it's at, almost directly in the middle of the map. Salty Towers could be that POI. Nice shots coming out from Noel. Christmas is still alive in this game at least, but you see a lot of action back and forth between the players trying just to rotate into Salty. And with, okay, so the problem with there being one POI, almost a nice shot from Noel. The problem with there being one POI in the next few circles is it's going to be really rough for other players to try and rotate in, because you either decide to go for that POI and just almost die, I would say immediately, or you try and consider going somewhere else and try and just hope that the storm rotates your way and you kind of sit up somewhere in the sand, or, you know, even in the sand, if so be it, and try and just hope for the best from there. So we'll see how people do decide to play through it.
I like that little pre-peek right there over the hilltop with the sniper shot. Just in case, you know, the other player gets brave enough to poke their head up over that hilltop and, you know, able to claim a little bit of loot, get an upgrade on the shotgun now with the blue lever action. And, you know, this is a thing that I give a lot of credit to a handful of players that we've seen here, the tunneling. And, you know, we talk about, and that's also a huge thing we just see in the feed, Carry getting an elimination there onto Demon, because both of those names up there in there, and I think Carry is actually right on that precipice of qualifying here, so it just has to accent. But the development of Fortnite and how much more advanced it's got, like it used to be literally just if you could build a wall, build a staircase, then you were pretty well set, and you could get a 1x1.
And if you could do that in a 2x2 area, you were crazy.
And then you're nuts. And now it's like, can you build the Taj Mahal in 4.6 seconds? Great, now you're really good. And then like you introduced into tunneling, and the tunneling went from floor, wall, staircase, and, you know, rooftop if you're feeling a little extra on top. But now it's like you get the floor, the wall, the archway, and the staircase. Like you get like 5 layers. They're just adding on to it, and the more obscure and the more complicated they're making these builds, and these kids, they're getting younger and they're getting better, and it's amazing to watch. It blows my mind.
Yeah, this is like the only competition where like it really encourages youth. Obviously Fortnite's a very youthful game. A lot of, you know, young players tend to play it, but it's crazy how fast you have to be in Fortnite, just in general. Obviously, aim-wise, people practice their aim all the time. Rubyfied going down, that's a huge name dropping as well before the top 15 even. So another important kill to go down in the feed. But yeah, players practice their aim. Like back in the day of like Counter-Strike even, it would just be a lot of practicing your aim, maybe a little bit of movement, maybe a little bit of execution, but not really like too much else. And Fortnite is building, editing, aiming, rotations, and there's so many things that players have to keep track of, and most of them are like 14. So the fact that they can do all of that while hopefully doing well in school, it's crazy that they're able to do all of that and be able to maintain the kind of high level of competition.
And it's a thing that, like, you start to talk about the conversation of, you know, how quarantine has affected everything, because now you're doing most of your schooling at home anyway, so your schooling takes realistically half the time, because you're just not wasting all that extra time with all the fluff on top. And good shots from Noel right there. Gonna lose that, actually. Unfortunate to be able to have that one snagged away from you. But now you'll only have like 4 to 5 hours of school commitment during the day, and then you can spend the rest of the time. And then you have the Cash Cups, the FNCS, you know, all these, the public tournaments that all these esports organizations like Skillshot are doing. And, you know, on top of the amateur market that's doing this, you know, you mentioned earlier in round number 1, you know, the advancement that Fortnite itself is making in support of its title. I mean, last year there was 17 million that was put up for grabs by Fortnite, by Epic Games in the Cash Cups and in the FNCS. This year they upped that number to 20 million. Like, it's only getting bigger, it's only getting better, and the way that esports is developing, especially under quarantine, is just creating this perfect storm for all these kids to get better, to spend time to practice. and make some money on the side.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, that's an important thing too, is to have this amount of money at this young of an age. I mean, we know someone like Sake, 16 years old, and he's gotten $30,000+ of Fortnite earnings, and I mean, like, just absolutely ridiculous at that age. Like, what do you do? I don't even know what I would be able to do. I'd order food every day. I'd probably have some nice pairs of shoes, and like, what else? Well, that's it. That's all I could really, achieve at that age. So it's crazy that these kids are. I mean, you look at someone like Booga was able to almost retire. Like, just the amount alone he got off the World Cup, he could have retired forever and could have just budgeted
That was even
for
after
like 15, 20 years. Exactly. It's crazy. But we're looking at this one out of the third game of Qualifier 3, see if those players can make their way to the finals. We are still seeing quite a few names right there. Joe Baca having a good game. Firefly wanting to take this one down as well. Karu, we did see in the bottom half of the top 10. This could be a huge game for him if he's able to get the first place and a few kills.
Yeah, already making that rotation. You see Karu and Young both over there in the zone already. Bucky's name still in the mix. Joe Baca, as you mentioned. Kakashi and Firefly. Another couple of names we see go to the late game, as well as Carter, who see themselves starting to stack up on top. You see Lada in the bottom right trying to break through this rooftop. See if he can get to the player down below. A lot of metal to break through, though. A little bit of problem. Return fire coming through, but able to skirt out of the way of danger. Now going straight into the box. Trading shots back and forth. Couple 20s to hit, but not much more than that. Didn't get hit on any return fire. Is going to get out of that box safe and sound. Hit the charge on the other side. See if we'll be able to get up here with these shotguns. Chug Splash is going down. Try to break through this wall, but not going to be able to find that. Reload the shotty. See if can find a better engage off this one. Player on the rotation out and around as the zone does start to come in. These are going to be the last ones to rotate in. Now you got to wonder, all these other players already in the zone. Going to flip a 180, watch these players rotate in, and just unload.
Yeah, now it becomes surprisingly not a lot of people dying just yet, but that's usually around 6 to 7. You see that 13 maybe drop to 5 or 6 in total because of how crucial the moving zones are. Very, very difficult to be able to find an easy rotation going later into the games, especially when it comes to the moving circles. 20 seconds left on number 5 as we see Lada gets absolutely destroyed by a player up at height advantage. Now he's got to get a move on to that same direction that he just got lasered from. So using the flopper and a mini to get back up to 125 health. There goes another 25 or 30 health as he loses the rest of his shield and gets absolutely destroyed by everybody else on his way down. Young gonna find that kill onto him, and another kill going down as Icy's gonna be able to find Joe Baca. And just some more rotations to go through as this goes up a mountain. This is a very awkward moving zone for the rest of the player base because you're gonna have to use a lot of materials to get up that mountain to go to the next moving zone.
Yeah, and it's going to be difficult. I mean, we talked about Young was one of the first ones over there to this next zone, and being able to unleash that firepower on the players making the rotation, try to get some shots off the player, making the move with the bouncer. We're in the top 10 now here. Zone going to be shrinking in the next 50 seconds. Some more shots down low, see if you can get anything to go. But just watching these players on the rotation and going to get some good shots off. A lot of 35s, breaking the shield down to 35 white on the one. But players chasing each other. Going to use your bouncer here, and this is going to be the hard part. Going up this elevation, as you were talking about, the geographical change is going to now introduce a new level of difficulty here because your height is completely mitigated going up on top of this mountain, trying to build in. Then get a couple of shotgun shots off on the way up. Players going to be lit up down below, but still getting tagged from behind here. And this is going to be very interesting as this zone comes through. And this is where we talk about the importance of having those mats to be able to build up as well as water falling down for all of these players.
Yeah, it's a lot to get through as we see the shots starting to come in. We see almost a kill coming through here for this player as Young is starting to find some shots but not find the kills. Now he's going to have to start making the rotation. Flopper is going to be eaten. Firefly is going to go down to Karu. So Karu's still in this top 6 here as Noel is going to find Buckty. So Buckty was on a good game. Still got 7th overall. So still could keep that first place standings just depending on if anyone else in the top 10 gets a victory royale plus a couple of points here. Looking at somebody like Karu who was just on the edge of that top 10 around that 30-point mark to try and get themselves into that first place margin to take that money away from Buck T. Noel's gonna find another kill. Been really good in this last game as well. Young is gonna actually go down to the storm and Buck T's gonna get the official kill onto that one. Now dropping down to just 3 players as we see another kill go through. Whoever has the height up here, I mean, I don't see how you lose this as a player.
Yeah. should be relatively easy making the way up. Noel here on the ground. Rockets going to be coming through to destroy the safety around. Trying to break through the wall. 35's down to white, and not a lot more going to come from that. So Zombie going to get taken out. Rockets still coming in on the pressure on this side. Rocket coming out, not going to hit. Good walls to be able to stop that one come through. And this is the importance of still having mats at this point in the game. A couple 35s, good shots, traded and blocking the Rockets again to come. So far able to win out on this one. This is going to be Cycle actually up here on the top side. Not sure how many Rockets are left, but they're obviously still missing some shield, popping these minis, and they're trying to stay as healthy as possible. Good shot from the backside there to be able to get a good amount of damage down, and watching the bird's eye structure is starting to get destroyed around. Very good heads-up play to destroy all of that around. Shotgun shot's going to be dealt to ground level, and a couple of trades back and forth. Shotgun's going to come through. Noel's going to drop, and the cycle is going to be complete and come away with the victory royale.
Nice win coming out from Cycle, and even the second place runner-up going through pretty well. And I mean, that was a pretty interesting game. We saw a lot of early kills happen to quite the few of the top players. You saw Rubyfied, Jobaka, a few players going down early. So I mean, there's going to be quite a mix-up as far as the top standings go. As far as the overall qualifier goes, the top 30 go through. So if you're already kind of in that top 20 mark, I'm sure you're probably still somewhere around that top 30 to qualify anyways. But this is just qualifier number 1, so make sure to stay tuned, like we said, on Skillshot, at Skillshot Media on Twitter, using those hashtags IATLGG and ATL Open. Those are going to be your kind of main sources on when the next qualifier is going to be. It's going to be next Thursday, same time, and then you have another one after that, qualifier number 3, that leads into the finals in the last week of February. So if you did not make it today, if you want to play still, there's still options and still opportunities as far as the next couple of weeks goes.
And there's going to be a lot more information given. You know, you can go to Skillshot's website as well as in the Discord server. There are a lot of friendly people to help you out. There is a Discord channel dedicated to help and questions and suggestions and anything that you might have in feedback for this. You mentioned first open qualifier. We have 2 more after this to lead up to that grand finals where there is a $1,000 prize pool. Top 8 gets paid out today. Only the top 5 getting, but the top 30 qualifying from today, next week, and the week following into that grand finals, plus giveaways along the way. As we mentioned, social media is a great place to find out what everything that is going on, potential giveaways to come through, as well as maybe you made the highlight reel. I know they've been posting tweets as this show has progressed, and you know, maybe it's a little extra something that you're going to put in your next montage.
And there's one thing that pops in my head almost immediately is obviously the first round, the Buck T bouncer shotgun that we ended up seeing that ended up leading to his victory was absolutely phenomenal. Of course, I liking to add that to his highlight reel. We are just getting the victor kind of finalized and getting every placements point, all the placements added up and making sure everything is correct before we give you the correct standings and the correct leaderboard. But an overview of the tournament, Buck T had a fantastic game 1, a 45-point game, 25 points off the victory, and then had a 10-kill game on top of that. So a 45-point game like actually secured him in through the qualifier off of the first game alone because of how good he did. And then we saw through the first couple of games, Bugs had a fantastic couple of performances getting back-to-back seconds. Couldn't quite find that in game 3, though, and I think Bugs going to be a little bit mad at himself for kind of giving that away in game number 3, considering the consistency was there. Just ended up going into a bad 50-50 and ended up losing potential to take some money away from today's tournament.
Yeah, I mean, consistency is always going to be key, and the fact you only have those 3 games to capitalize on the min-max that you can possibly go through. There's going to be a lot of conversation to have about, you know, as these open qualifiers go through. But, you know, we'll get to that point later. As you mentioned, we are still tallying up with the scoreboards. We are actually going to take a quick break as we finalize the scores, figure out who is in that top 5 pay, and as well as the top 30. So don't go anywhere. Scoreboards and reports and in-depth analysis and brain cells are coming up after this. Stay tuned. Final time today. Welcome back here to the Open Qualifier number 1 for the Atlanta Community Tournament featuring Fortnite. Troy mentioned a little bit earlier, there's a lot more down the road. So if Fortnite's not your cup of tea, then stay tuned. There's going to be more. Follow along social media. My name's Trevor McNeil here as we get into the post-analysis of today's competition. Troy Welling alongside me. Do you have something?
Nope, I was just waiting for my name.
Okay, yeah. Troy Welling. Are you
Great.
happy now?
All right, so yeah, this is the post show. Obviously, we went through all 3 games already, trying to declare a winner to see who was going through. Obviously, Buck T with a fantastic first game, 45 points in total, able to lead the leaderboards for quite a bit of ways. But we obviously saw Bugs getting really close through 2 games, and then Rubified after a fantastic win in game number 2, able to get himself up to the top 3. But we do have the leaderboards for you. So let's go ahead and take a look at who ended up winning qualifier number 1 for the Community Open. It is going to be Buck T, finishing off with 69 points. Had a good enough third game to still remain in first place. That huge first game from him was able to keep him consistently in the top spot. Rubified coming in at second, then Bugsy dropping down to third. So not too far of a drop for Bugs, just going from second to third overall. Ruby going up 1, always a nice little finish there at the end. But pretty good point from everybody, finishing off the top 10 around that 30-point mark, and seeing quite a few players shoot their way up through that game number 3.
Yeah, absolutely. And, even with Bugs only taking a very early exodus in that last round and still only dropping, getting like 2 or 3 points out of that and still getting third place overall in a cash position. So, congratulations to those top 5 that do get paid out as well. You look at Firefly, Carter, Karu, Cycle came away with that last victory in that one to skyrocket up the leaderboard. So, players that started to pick it up as the matches progressed. Of course, if you don't see your name over on the side, then you can see on the website where the full leaderboard will be posted. Of course, this is only the first qualifier. You didn't qualify today. There's more. You can do it in qualifier number 2, and if you want, you can do it in qualifier number 3. You only qualify for the finals 1 time. You only get 1 slot reserved for you, but you get at least 3 chances if you didn't make it this time around.
Yeah, that's always nice. We were talking about it. It is 3 games of per qualifier. So if you didn't have the best 3 games, you can always go into the next one. Looking at someone like Chang, who we obviously know is a fantastic player for Vanish, not having the best of 3 games, hopefully still qualified, but didn't see him perform like we probably would expect him to finish off there on the top of the leaderboard. So obviously looking at that, if he didn't qualify, I'd be surprised, just at an overall arc, but could still look at qualifiers 2 and 3, which, like we said, is going to be every Thursday from here on out, next week and the week after, and then the final is going to be February 27th. So make sure, like we said, to keep an eye out on all the social medias at Skillshot Media. Use the hashtags as well, IETLGG and ATL Open. That will get you kind of connected and get in the conversation with being able to keep up with that. And like Trevor said earlier, there is a Discord as well for Skillshot, I'm sure, in the bio somewhere on Twitch, and you can find that. Join that. If you have any questions, make sure to ask, and feel free to be a part of the community, because like we said, there is still a lot besides Fortnite that is still being planned and being thought through. So there's a lot going on here at Skillshot. Obviously, just a ton of good opportunities for everybody.
And as you generalize it, there's an entire conversation that we really didn't even get to touch on at all, in the sense that, playing these on NA East, and there's a handful of players that we know that live West Coast, like California, Vegas timeframe, or area. There's an interesting point, because I think it was like 3-4 weeks ago in an FNCS where it's like, there's always that rivalry between East and West, and, which server's better in Fortnite, and everyone always thinks it's on the East side. And like 4 or 5 weeks ago during the FNCS, 5 of the top 6 teams were West Coast teams playing on East. So there's some question marks about, which regions actually is better, and you have the players going from one side to play on the other server. And there's always a thing, okay, your latency obviously is going to be a little bit higher if you're trying to play on a server across the country in the United States. So when you see players like Karu, like Vanish, like Dev, getting up in these positions that are, top 10, top 15, you kind of have to add a little asterisk to that, give them a little benefit of the doubt, in the sense that their ping is probably like twice as high as the players around them. But it's always fun to be able to see these players be able to capitalize on any and every tournament, because all these kids want to do is just play, right? That's all they want to do is play, and we're giving them the opportunities to play week in and week out. Today was the first opportunity. Next week is the second, as you mentioned, a week from today, same time, same place. We're right back here for qualifier number 2.
Yeah, and as we can see, the qualifier number 2, speaking of which, going to be next Thursday, February 11th at 5 p.m. EST. Once again, if you want to register for that, go to atlopen.iatl.gg. That website can be found anywhere around. You could just Google ATL Open, probably find that there as well. That will give you the access to register into qualifier number 2. If you miss out on that one, obviously, like we said, qualifier 3 going to be a week after that. So make sure to get into that qualifier number 2 now. It should be open and should be able to be opened up. So now is the time to register if you want to get early access into qualifier number 2. See what the competition is going to be looking like going into that one, and see how the entire kind of tournaments can be thought through. Obviously, like we said, qualifier number 1 done and dusted for today. $175 being given away through the top 6 places. Next qualifier next week, February 11th, and then the last and final qualifier, February 18th, leading up to the grand finals on the 27th for that $1,000 prize pool.
And of course, on top of that, we have a lot of giveaways going along. I mean, we had the HyperX Clouds given out, plus a $25 gift card to Insight. So shout out to Insight as well for helping support and push us through this production, as well as, Skillshot, because the fact that we wouldn't have these tournaments, wouldn't have these opportunities to either cast or play, or just give a bunch of 16-year-olds free money for playing Fortnite.
Right.
I mean, what's a better way to spend your Thursday afternoon than play Fortnite and get like $75? So huge shout out to everybody to help put this production on, to be able to get this extra little prizing, as well as the giveaways for those that aren't even playing. Maybe they are playing and they still win some extra free stuff. So before we head out here, Troy, any final thoughts of today, and what are you looking forward to next week?
I'm just looking forward to I'm looking at similar player base going into next week as well. Obviously, the players that didn't qualify looking to have a good qualifier next week, as well as some new players that could still be hearing about the tournament, didn't quite able to sign up for qualifier 1, and now they have a little bit of understanding of how the tournament runs through and the format and everything, so they kind of see how it plays out. So I think qualifier number 2 is going to be more exciting and have a bit more action than qualifier 1 did, and we'll have a lot more people, I think, as people start to get more interested and start to realize that there is, this is a free entry tournament. To have a chance to get $1,000 in that grand final prize pool, it is going to be something that these players are going to try to achieve. And obviously, just to win a qualifier, you want to get that under your belt too.
Absolutely. As we look forward to our next competition, that's all we have here for today's qualifier. Trevor McNeil alongside Troy Welling as we sign off for this first edition of the Open Qualifier. Next week, qualifier number 2 coming up, number 3 the week